Chapter 2041. Legend had it that this was not an Earth-tier cultivation technique, but a Heaven-tier cultivation technique. It was a cultivation technique that had disappeared for tens of thousands of years. Unexpectedly, it actually appeared in Bai Zijing's hands after tens of thousands of years. And from the looks of it, the other party had already cultivated 3 strands of sword qi. Probably not many people below the realm of supreme powerhouses could contend against it. These peerless geniuses had ugly expressions. And those older generation figures were even more exclaiming. All of them widened their eyes as if they were injected with chicken blood. 9 Revolutions Tianyuan Sword. It was actually really the 9 Revolutions Tianyuan Sword. Heavens, he had even cultivated it to the 3rd revolution. This kid was going to defy the heavens. It's over, that kid called Lin Xian is definitely going to lose. 9 Revolutions Tianyuan Sword, that was a legendary heaven-tier cultivation technique. Once it was used, that kid would definitely not be able to block it. As expected of Bai Zijing, no wonder he dared to challenge the world's powerhouses. He could even find such a lost martial art. On the other side, Lin Xian also frowned. He could naturally feel the powerful threat brought by the 9 strands of sword qi behind the other party. And at this moment, hearing the exclamations of the people around him, he was even more shocked. Heaven-tier cultivation technique? That was actually a heaven-tier cultivation technique. Heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow cultivation techniques. At this moment, all of Lin Xian's cultivation techniques were earth-tier cultivation techniques. The good ones were peak earth-tier, and the bad ones were advanced earth-tier. But he did not have any heaven-tier cultivation techniques yet. He did not expect that the other party actually had a heaven-tier cultivation technique. But fortunately, it seemed that the other party had only cultivated 3 strands of sword qi. The remaining 9 strands of sword qi were all illusory and should not be able to be used. In other words, the other party was not an invincible existence. Moreover, he was not afraid. Although he did not have a heaven-tier cultivation technique, he had the Great Dragon Sword Soul, which was known as an offensive saint technique. Lin Xian did not think that the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul was weaker than a heaven-tier cultivation technique. Therefore, he decided to use the Great Dragon Sword Soul to resist the other party's 9 Revolutions Tianyuan Sword. Stop struggling. The 9 Revolutions Tianyuan Sword is a heaven-tier cultivation technique. You can't resist it. Bai Zijing said in a deep voice. It's not up to you whether you can resist it or not. Just attack. Lin Xian snorted coldly. In the next moment, his eyes narrowed. Suddenly, the Great Dragon Sword Soul in his body began to circulate wildly, forming a dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of him. As soon as the dragon-shaped sword shadow appeared, it brought about a sky-high storm, as if a real dragon had descended into the mortal world. It made everyone tremble. What was this? What a terrifying aura. Could that really be a dragon? This guy is too heaven-defying, right? Why do I feel that his aura is not weaker than that 9 Revolutions heavenly sword? Cries of surprise could be heard one after another. Clearly, everyone was shocked by the dragon-shaped sword shadow. It can't be. Could it be that this brat also knows a heaven-tier cultivation technique? Bei Chen, Li Mingbai, and the others were dumbfounded. Zhou Jianying, on the other hand, was frantically shaking her head. That's impossible. Senior brother spent a lot of effort to obtain this heaven-ranked cultivation technique. It was impossible for that brat to have it. What the hell is this? Even Shangguan Qi felt a chill run down his spine. Chong Lu, who was beside him, also had a face full of horror. Although he was very confident in his thick earth physique, when that dragon-shaped sword shadow appeared, he didn't dare to resist at all. In fact, that aura made him tremble. Bai Zijing was even more surprised. Originally, he was full of confidence, thinking that as long as he used his greatest trump card, the 9 Revolutions Heavenly Origin Sword, the other party would definitely lose. That was because that was a heaven-tier cultivation technique. A heaven-tier cultivation technique was too terrifying. Perhaps even a peerless powerhouse might not have it. One could imagine how precious it was. However, he didn't expect that the other party could actually execute a dragon-shaped sword shadow. That sharp aura was not weaker than his heaven-tier cultivation technique at all. It even made him suspect that the other party also had a heaven-tier cultivation technique. He knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Otherwise, who knew what other means the other party had? Therefore, in the next moment, he decided to activate his 9 Revolutions Heavenly Origin Sword. Although he had only cultivated to the 3rd revolution, this was a heaven-tier cultivation technique. He had unlimited confidence. Clang. In the next moment, he stretched out his palm, and a sword chi behind him began to slowly rotate. Along with his arm, it slashed forward. It was as if a galaxy had descended, tearing the sky apart. The power of this sword was too great, far surpassing all the killing moves that Bai Zijing had used before. This was a heaven-tier cultivation technique. Its power was unimaginable. Even those powerhouses in the distance felt their scalps go numb. They didn't dare to resist it at all. Unless someone had a heaven-defying defense or the same heaven-tier cultivation technique, they would be able to resist it. Boom. Looking at the sword shadow that came over, Lin Xian's expression was also solemn. He held the dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of him and swung his sword. Cold light flickered, and the dragon roared as it rolled over. Above the 9 heavens, a sword light descended from the sky. Boom! The 2 sword lights collided, and the sky was torn apart. The glaring light made the millions of cultivators not dare to look directly at it. They all closed their eyes. Heaven and earth seemed to have lost their color. The energy that filled the sky was like a wave, pushing everyone. Lin Xian and Bai Zijing immediately activated their strongest defense. The 2 of them were like small boats in the waves, floating with the wind. Bang! Bang! After the attack, the 2 of them each took 3 steps back. There was a black hole under their feet. He blocked it. He actually blocked it. Damn it, how is this possible? Everyone went crazy. Zhou Jianying, Bai Chen, Li Mengbai, and the others roared crazily, not daring to believe it at all. Bai Zijing's pupils constricted. The other party was really able to block his 9 Revolutions Heavenly Origin Sword. This was too surprising. To be honest, this was the strongest young man he had ever met in his life. He had never thought that he would be in danger of failure one day. 2 swords, he still had the last 2 swords. If these 2 swords couldn't defeat the other party, he would really lose. Thinking of this, he roared angrily. The spiritual power in his body circulated crazily like a huge tornado. Then, he stretched out 2 palms and quickly closed them. The remaining 2 sword lights behind him also spun crazily and quickly healed, forming an even more resplendent sword chi. Well, he wanted to fuse the 2 sword chis. Seeing this scene, the seniors and peerless geniuses felt their scalps go numb. 1 sword chi was already so terrifying that even a powerhouse couldn't resist it. The power of the 2 sword chis combined was simply unimaginable. Lin Xian also felt the danger. In the process of the 2 sword chis fusing, even the spiritual power in his body started to tremble. He knew that this was the power of a heaven-tier cultivation technique. He had to act quickly. In the next moment, golden light burst out from his eyes. He was like a god of war, mighty and extraordinary. The dragon-shaped sword shadow in his hand grew crazily, reaching a length of 10,000 feet. It was as if it had really become a huge dragon, roaring at the sky. Dragon Soul Slash. 9 Revolutions Heavenly Origin Sword. After 2 angry roars, the 10,000 feet long azure dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it rushed out. Chapter 2042. Boom. The intense collision was like 100,000 bolts of lightning striking down. At this moment, no one could hear anything and no one could see anything. There was only a blinding light that filled the entire world. The area within a radius of 100,000 miles was completely enveloped by a terrifying energy tide. At this moment, mountains collapsed and beasts roared. The demonic beasts below and the surrounding humans could not resist at all. It was not until a long time later that everyone regained their hearing and vision. Then they all turned around and looked into the distance. How was it? This was what they wanted to know the most. In front, the light also gradually disappeared. Then, everyone saw 2 blurry figures. Then, the millions of cultivators were all stunned. Because in front, Lin Xian was holding the dragon-shaped sword shadow with both hands. His face was pale, and his forehead was covered in sweat. Using the Dragon Soul sword shadow at full strength consumed a lot of his energy. Fortunately, he did not suffer any serious injuries. It seemed that he had just exhausted too much energy. On the other side, Bai Zijing was half kneeling on the ground. His hair was disheveled, and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. It dripped into the void, making a tinkling sound. There was a bloody hole on his shoulder. It was pierced by sword qi. Obviously, he had been injured in the exchange just now. Moreover, his right shoulder was injured. As a result, he could not even hold his sword steadily. Everyone was stunned. It was not until a long time later that they exclaimed, "Heavens, Bai Zijing was injured. Bai Zijing actually lost. How is this possible? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Bai Zijing actually lost? It's really hard to imagine. I originally thought that Bai Zijing would become the #1 swordsman, but I didn't expect that an even more terrifying person would appear halfway. That kid is called Lin Xian, right? He's too heaven-defying." Countless exclamations sounded. As for the geniuses and older generation figures, they took in a deep breath of cold air as their eyes were filled with astonishment. Li Mengbai, Chong Lu, and Lei Outyan were shocked. Although they thought that they were geniuses and unparalleled in the world, they did not have the capital to be arrogant in front of these two people. Beichen's eyes widened, not daring to believe that Bai Zijing would lose. At the side, Zhou Jianying shook her head crazily. Her beautiful face was also filled with shock. Impossible? Senior brother lost? How did senior brother lose? How could he be so strong? She felt a strong sense of defeat, a feeling she had not felt for many years. The first time he had it, it was given to him by this young man named Lin Xian. At that time, she was one of the 4 great geniuses of the South Horizon region. Her opponents were only the other 3, but in the battle of the Azure Dragon, she lost to a youth she had never seen before. That person was Lin Xian. Unexpectedly, the person who had defeated her back then had now defeated her senior brother, an even more dazzling genius. For a moment, she simply could not accept it. On the other side, Sheng Guanqi was also stunned. His face was full of shock. To be honest, he had been full of confidence previously, thinking that he would be able to go up against Bai Zijing. But now, he shook his head in denial. Their ultimate moves far surpassed his. Even if he fought with his full strength, he would not be able to defeat them. He had been invited by the 3rd prince to fight against Bai Zijing. But now he realized he couldn't defeat Bai Zijing. Fortunately, someone had defeated him, and his goal could be considered a success. However, who exactly was this Lin Xian? Why had he never heard of him before? Would he be invited by the 1st prince in the future? Sheng Guanqi had no idea at all. He decided that he would definitely report today's matter to the 3rd prince properly. He had to let the 3rd prince get such a talent. In the distance, Bai Zijing was also panting heavily. His face was extremely pale, and he was even twitching a little. It was because this sword was too sharp, and the remaining sharp sword intent on his wound made it impossible for his wound to heal. Therefore, he had really lost this battle. "You won. You're the strongest swordsman I've ever seen." Bai Zijing sighed and said this. He was a conceited and proud person who had never been defeated before. Now that he had lost to an even stronger swordsman, he was convinced of his loss. He did not have any complaints. The other party was really powerful, and that dragon-shaped sword shadow made him feel like he was about to die. Lin Xian, on the other hand, took out 2 recovery pills and quickly replenished the spiritual energy he had expended. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Bai Zijing, I want you to seal your sword for 100 years and not attack. Can you do it?" "What? Seal your sword for 100 years? Not attack?" Hearing this, everyone was in an uproar, and none of them dared to believe it. They did not expect Lin Xian to make such a request. The expressions of Beichen, Zhou Jianying, and the others changed. It was because Bai Zijing was the 1st prince's man, and he was a genius swordsman that the 1st prince liked and relied on. Seeing that the battle for the position of crown prince was getting more and more intense, asking Bai Zijing to seal his sword at this time was akin to cutting off one of the 1st prince's arms. Could it be that this Lin Xian was also sent by another prince? In an instant, everyone was shocked, and countless gazes fell on Lin Xian. After hearing this, Bai Zijing was also stunned. Then he smiled bitterly. Forget it. He had defeated countless sword Dao experts all the way to the south and forced each of them to seal their swords for 30 years. He did not expect that one day, such a thing would happen to him. Shaking his head, he sighed and put away his sword. Alright, I promise you. I really want to know who you are. I'm Lin Xian, an itinerant cultivator from a distant island. As for the details, you can ask your junior sister Zhou Jianing. We're old friends. Lin Xian said calmly. After hearing this, Bai Zijing was extremely shocked. What? You know junior sister Zhou? He was really too shocked. He knew about Zhou Jianing's background. She came from a distant island. To them, that place was a barren land. They did not expect that a genius like Zhou Jianing would appear there. It was indeed surprising. However, such a stunning swordsman had appeared in such a barren land and even defeated him. This was even more shocking. He came back to his senses and clenched his fists. Lin Xian, you're very strong. Although I've lost to you this time, I won't give up. The next time I meet you, I'll definitely defeat you. I'll be waiting for you. Lin Xian nodded solemnly, looking very serious. However, he continued to say, however, my target is not you. My target is not Bai Zijing. Everyone was stunned, including Bai Zijing. This was the first time he was looked down upon, and it was indeed a very unpleasant feeling. However, he was stunned at the next moment. This was because he saw Lin Xian holding the sword in his right hand and pointing the tip of the sword at the sky. Chapter 2043. The Arch. As soon as this voice came out, heaven and earth changed color. Countless bolts of lightning even descended from the sky. However, none of them could get close to Lin Xian. Everyone swallowed their saliva crazily. Bai Zijing's face was also pale. His hands were trembling slightly from the force. The other party's goal was actually the Arch. He didn't expect the other party to have such ambition. Becoming the Arch was the goal of every peerless genius. However, many people had fallen on this path. He was talented enough, but he didn't dare to have such a goal. Because he knew that becoming the Arch was simply too difficult. It was an existence that stood above everyone, sweeping through the ages and dominating all directions. One had to experience countless battles and step on the heads and corpses of countless geniuses to reach the peak. It could be said that in the entire true spirit world, in the 5 continents, only one person could become the Arch in the end. And this was just a conservative estimate. Or rather, there was none. However, this young man in front of them actually had such confidence and was determined to become the Arch. It was simply unbelievable. What big words. You actually want to become the Arch? Do you know what kind of existence the Arch is? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Just as everyone was in a daze, a disdainful voice sounded. Then, everyone turned their heads in shock, wanting to see who dared to provoke Lin Xian at this time. Bai Zijing also frowned. He could naturally feel the powerful force contained in this voice. Lin Xian's expression was calm. No matter how difficult it is, I have to walk this path. Is that so? Looks like you really don't know what's good for you. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. This was a very young man with a jade-like face, sharp eyebrows, and starry eyes. He wore a sword robe and emitted a sharp aura. It was like an unsheathed sword. The Arch was an invincible existence that swept through the ages. Every one of them was unique and couldn't be replicated. Moreover, the Arch had displayed heaven-defying aptitude when he was young. Do you think you can be compared to the Arch with your current appearance? What a joke! In my opinion, you're just an ant. This young man in a sword robe laughed arrogantly. Everyone else was shocked. Who is this kid? How dare he speak to Lin Xian in such a manner? For you. Lin Xian also furrowed his brows and coldly asked. He was also somewhat displeased with this insolent youth. Hi kid, listen up. I'm Tan Yifei from the Dian Holy Land. What? Someone from the Dian Holy Land. The surrounding people exclaimed. The Dian sacred ground was also a very famous sacred ground. Moreover, the young man in front of them had a very strong aura, which shocked them. At this time, the young man called Tanifei sneered and said again, "I came this time to meet that Bai Zijing. I want the world to know who is the true number one swordsman." What? Another one who came to challenge the White Peace Realm? Everyone was shocked, but soon, their expressions became very strange. "Where's Bai Zijing? Get him to come out and fight me." Tanifei was extremely arrogant, pointing his sword at the world. This made everyone even more silent. At this moment, Bai Zijing also covered his wound and said in a deep voice, "I'm Bai Zijing. However, I'm no longer the number one swordsman. You've got the wrong person." "What? You've lost?" Tanifei immediately frowned because Bai Zijing was in a very sorry state now. His aura was chaotic and he was injured. No matter how he looked at it, he was different from the legendary peerless swordsman. "Did you lose?" Tanifei frowned. Judging from the situation in front of him, it was very likely that Bai Zijing had lost. So at the next moment, he asked coldly, "Who defeated you?" "Him." Bai Zijing stretched out his finger and pointed to the front. Then, Tanifei turned his head and looked in that direction. At the next moment, he was stunned, because he realized that Bai Zijing was pointing to none other than Lin Xian. "What? This kid is the number one swordsman?" Tanifei frowned, then the corners of his mouth curled up in disdain. "Kid, fight me. However, I advise you to obediently give up the title of the number one swordsman because you're no match for me at all." At the same time, he sneered, "What, Bai Zijing? He's so powerful, but I didn't expect him to be a piece of trash." Pumph. Hearing that, Bai Zijing was enraged. He had never been looked down upon like that before, so even though he was injured now, he had to attack. With a furious roar, the spiritual power in his body circulated crazily as he activated the 9 Revolutions Heavenly Origin Sword. Suddenly, 9 sword lights appeared behind him again. One of them turned into a sharp sword chi and quickly slashed forward. "Buzz. What?" In an instant, Tanifei's expression changed. He didn't expect the other party to be able to unleash such a terrifying sword light. The sword chi made his hair stand on end. He didn't dare to be careless. He opened his mouth and spat out a red light shield in front of him. Bang! There was an earth-shattering sound as his red shield was split into 2. Meanwhile, he was directly sent flying back thousands of miles. Bai Zijing was injured and couldn't unleash the full power of the 9 Revolutions Heavenly Origin Sword. Otherwise, the sword would definitely have seriously injured the other party. How could this be? Why was he so strong? Tanifei was stunned. He didn't expect a seriously injured person to be able to unleash such a terrifying sword chi. He couldn't tolerate it. He roared angrily and prepared to attack. However, at this moment, Lin Xian attacked. The other party actually underestimated him, so he decided to teach the other party a lesson. Buzz. A dragon-shaped sword shadow condensed in front of him and was then held in Lin Xian's hand. With a slash of the sword, the shadow of an azure dragon appeared, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, once again filling the entire sky. Clang! Feeling the power of this sword, Tanifei's scalp went numb. This sword chi was even more terrifying than the one that Bai Zijing had slashed out previously because Lin Xian wasn't seriously injured. Although he had expended a lot of energy, the power of the dragon-shaped sword shadow wasn't something that ordinary people could imagine. Feeling the threat of death, Tanifei's expression became abnormally ugly. He roared angrily and the Dian sword formation flashed out quickly. Countless light swords condensed in front of him, forming a complicated formation. It quickly combined and carried out a powerful defense. In the sky, a white giant figure appeared, completely condensed from sword chi. It enveloped Tanifei. In the next moment, the dragon-shaped sword shadow slashed on top of the white giant, splitting it into 2. It even ruthlessly sent Tanifei flying again. This time, Tanifei even spat out a mouthful of blood and became extremely disheveled. "Damn it, kid, how dare you hurt me? I'm going to kill you." He was really angry. He couldn't tolerate being sent flying twice by 2 people in front of millions of cultivators. Chapter 2044. Seeing that a great battle was about to break out, the surrounding million cultivators cried out in surprise. They hadn't expected such a situation. Lin Xian's victory and becoming the #1 swordsman had already shocked them. But now, another genius from the sacred land of Day had appeared and arrogantly challenged Lin Xian. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his sleeve, the dragon's word domain appeared again. An enormous spirit energy vortex formed above his head, madly devouring the spirit energy within 100,000 miles to replenish his exhausted strength. Buzz. Just as the two peerless geniuses were about to erupt, a fiery light appeared in the sky and instantly pierced through the 9 heavens. Then, a giant was formed. He pushed his hands apart, blocking Lin Xian and Tanifei. "Stop, this battle ends here." A figure appeared in the sky, accompanied by a sharp voice that spread for thousands of miles. Everyone looked up, not expecting another peerless expert to appear. In the next moment, they were shocked. The newcomer was a 16 or 17-year-old youth. His lips were red, his teeth were white, and his features were delicate. He looked like an immortal child. However, the aura emanating from his body made everyone tremble. Not only that, the older generation and the people sent by the various princes also frowned. General Li Hua. This youth was Valurium Palace's General Li Hua. He had finally made his move. "Kid, you're not bad. I didn't expect you to actually defeat Bai Zijing." As soon as General Li Hua appeared, he was the first to look at Lin Xian, then revealed a kind smile. Then he looked at Bai Zijing again. "Remember your words. Seal your sword for 100 years. I hope you don't go back on your words." Finally, he looked at Tanifei. "People from the sacred land of Day, this battle ends here. If you want to fight, do it next time. You don't want to fight someone who has exhausted too much energy, do you? Even if you win, it'll be an unfair victory. Do you want to be laughed at by the world?" Hearing this, Tanifei snorted coldly. However, he still looked at Lin Xian with a cold expression. "Kid, what's your name?" "Lin Xian. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you anytime." "Lin Xian, right? I'll remember you. The next time we meet, I will kill you with my own hands." Tanifei snorted coldly. He then turned around and soared into the sky. The surrounding martial artists were shocked. They did not expect that this battle would not happen in the end. However, what shocked them even more was that Lin Xian was actually a member of Valurium Palace. It seemed like the Crown Prince competition was about to change again. General Li Hua stepped forward and stood beside Lin Xian. Then he opened a red scroll. Then the scroll broke, forming runes that filled the sky. They quickly formed an array and sent Lin Xian and General Li Hua away. The news of the sword meet on Mount Hua quickly spread throughout the Tai dynasty. The entire dynasty was in an uproar. They did not expect that Bai Zijing would be defeated in the end, and a youth called Lin Xian actually obtained the title of #1 swordsman. It was also the first time that Lin Xian's name was remembered by the Tai dynasty. For a moment, everyone was discussing and guessing the identity and background of this Lin Xian. Valurium Palace. King Valurium laughed heartily. He looked at Lin Xian and nodded in satisfaction. "Sir Lin, I did not expect you to be able to defeat Bai Zijing. Your Highness is too polite. It was just a fluke." Lin Xian smiled. King Valurium said that it was not a fluke. Bai Zijing was very strong. In terms of sword skills, almost no one in the younger generation could surpass him. "I did not expect that you would succeed. Naturally, I will not go back on my promise to you. From tomorrow onwards, you can enter the second mountain." "Thank you, Your Highness." Lin Xian also smiled. The second mountain was the mountain of ice. If he could enter, perhaps his sea god's ice would be even stronger. In the first mountain of fire, Lin Xian had not only absorbed hellfire, but also cultivated 2 killer moves. The first was Hellfire Lotus, the second was Fire God's Roar. What kind of killer moves would he be able to cultivate on the mountain of ice this time? Lin Xian was looking forward to it. Soon, he bid farewell to King Valurium and returned to his residence. He was ready to enter the mountain of ice the next day. After Lin Xian left, another youth in purple appeared in the hall. He was King Valurium's son. At this moment, he said with a face full of shock, Father, he really did it. How did this kid do it? I don't know, but I know that we have found a treasure. Inform the 8th prince and have him come. I want to introduce this Lin Xian to the 8th prince. Yes, I understand. I will contact Brother 8 right away. The youth in purple no longer had his previous disdain. To be honest, Lin Xian's strength was beyond his expectations. In fact, he was shocked. The next day, the sun rose. Lin Xian set off from the valley and flew towards the mountain of ice. Soon he entered the second mountain of ice. As soon as he stepped in, the wind and snow that filled the sky blew onto his body. It was as if it wanted to freeze him into an ice statue. Lin Xian snorted coldly and used sea god's ice to resist it. As expected of a mountain that was related to the hellhound, the ice on this mountain was too terrifying. It could definitely evolve Lin Xian's sea god's ice. After finding a place, Lin Xian sat down cross-legged and formed a seal with his fingers. He entered a state of cultivation. Time slowly passed. 10 days, 1 month, 1.5 months. On this day, 2 figures came to the Valurium Manor. One of them was a youth. His figure was tall and straight, and his face was handsome. He exuded a heroic aura. He wore green robes with golden dragons embroidered on his sleeves. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. It was obvious that he was no ordinary person. Beside him was a middle-aged man in white robes. The man's face was pale and beardless. An ice sword hung from his waist, and his aura was fierce. Especially his gaze, it was like a peerless divine sword. No one dared to look directly at him. Taoist Long, do you think the person Valurium King wants me to meet this time is Lin Xian? The man in green robes asked with a smile. The middle-aged man beside him said, That's for sure. Valurium King has already pledged allegiance to you, 8th Prince. Moreover, it was General Li Hua who took Lin Xian away at the end of the Battle of Mount Hua. This Lin Xian must be Valurium King's man. This time, he must have introduced him to you as well. Hearing this, the man in green robes smiled proudly. He was obviously very satisfied. Valurium King was really lucky to have found such a powerful young genius. Even Bai Zijing was defeated. Moreover, he made Bai Zijing seal his sword for 100 years. It seems that he won't be able to help the first prince in this battle for the position of crown prince. This time, he'll cut off one of Boss Huang Zi's arms. I'm afraid that our chances of winning will be much higher. That's only natural. Taoist Long also smiled. Speaking of luck, you're still the luckiest prince. No matter how many geniuses Valurium King has, they'll all be yours in the end. Chapter 2045. The two whispered to each other as they hurried towards the depths of the Valurium Palace. Soon, King Valurium sensed 2 powerful auras. The corner of his lips curled up. He knew that the 8th prince was here. With a flicker of his body, he tore through the void and appeared outside. 8th prince, please come in. King Valurium smiled. The man in green smiled. Royal uncle, you're too polite. I'm a junior after all. You don't have to be so polite. All right, I wonder why Uncle Wang is looking for me this time? Could it be that he wanted to introduce me to that young man called Lin Xian? That's right. King Valurium smiled. The 8th prince must have heard about the sword meet of Mount Hua. This Lin Xian must be very powerful. If he could work for the 8th prince, he would definitely increase the 8th prince's chances of winning. Royal uncle, you're too kind. If I succeed, I won't mistreat you. The 8th prince smiled. Then he looked at Taoist Long and asked, Royal uncle, where is Lin Xian? I want to meet him. 8th prince, please come with me. King Valurium nodded and led the way. The 3 of them flew towards the Hell Mountain like lightning. Royal uncle, I have to say that you're really amazing. You must have spent a lot of effort to get this 3-headed Hellhound's mountain from an ancient ruin, right? This is a legendary demonic beast on the sky ranking. You actually managed to get your hands on its corpse. Looks like your luck is really heaven-defying. 8th prince, you must be joking. There are all kinds of cultivation treasures in the palace. My 3 mountains are really not worth mentioning. King Valurium said. Then he looked at the mountain in front and said loudly, Sir Lin, are you satisfied with your cultivation? His voice turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the ice mountain. But after waiting for a while, there was no movement. The eighth prince was fine, but Taoist Long, who was beside him, frowned. In the next moment he snorted coldly. This voice contained a strange power. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, exploding rapidly. The terrifying sound wave spread to the ice in front. Boom, boom, boom. The void rippled as if it was about to explode. The frost on the ice mountain peak also began to tremble violently. Snow and ice flew everywhere. It looked like an avalanche was about to happen. However, at that moment, an enormous burst of ice energy was drawn out. Then, the wind and snow that filled the sky turned into two enormous ice palms that held up all of the mountain peaks. The howling cold wind that filled the sky instantly quieted down. As for that thunderous sound wave, it was instantly sealed in ice. What a powerful method! What a terrifying power of ice! When the eighth prince saw this scene, his brows furrowed. As for Taoist Long, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. When Taoist Long saw that the other party had actually dared to make the eighth prince wait, he was extremely displeased. Therefore, he was prepared to take the other party down a notch. However, he didn't expect that the other party's methods would far exceed his expectations. As expected of the person who could defeat Bai Zijing. He was really powerful. Off to the side, King Valurium smiled but said nothing. The eighth prince's eyes flickered. Now, he was looking forward to the person inside. Inside the ice mountain peak, Lin Xian also slowly opened his eyes. Lin Xian opened his eyes and then frowned slightly. As soon as he circulated his soul power, Lin Xian sensed three powerful auras outside. One of them belonged to King Valurium. The other two must have an extraordinary identity as well. He sighed and slowly stood up. He knew that he couldn't continue cultivating. However, the results of this 1.5 months were also very significant. He had once again mastered two killer moves. One was the offensive Frost Break, and the other was a defensive ability, Ice Guard. The power of Sea God's Ice had also increased. In the next moment, Lin Xian tore the void and left the ice mountain peak. Soon, he appeared in front of King Valurium and the other two. He found that there were two other people besides King Valurium. One was a young man in a green robe, and the other was a middle-aged man with a pale face and no beard. Both of their auras were very powerful. However, it seemed that the young man's identity should be more honorable. Whether it was the middle-aged man with a pale face or King Valurium, they both stood behind the young man. Needless to say, he should be one of the princes. After all, only princes could make King Valurium cautious. At this moment, King Valurium spoke with a smile. Young Master Lin, this is the 8th prince of the Tai dynasty. The 8th prince. Lin Xian frowned when he heard that. He had learned a little about the situation during the battle at Huashan. There were 3 most powerful princes in the Tai dynasty. Among them, the 1st prince, the 3rd prince, and the 8th prince. Bai Zijing, who he had defeated, was one of the 1st prince's men. He didn't expect King Valurium to support the 8th prince. In the next moment, he cupped his fists slightly. Greetings, 8th prince. Young Master Lin, you are too polite. I have heard about the Battle of Mount Hua. Young Master Lin is indeed a young genius and a peerless swordsman. You were able to defeat Bai Zijing. If you can work for me, my chances of winning the Crown Prince competition will be much higher. Crown Prince competition? Hearing this, Lin Xian showed a trace of surprise. He didn't know about this. He had just come to the Tai dynasty not long ago. His original purpose was to come to the nest of 10,000 dragons. He thought that he could only learn about the nest of 10,000 dragons by getting close to the core of the dynasty. Therefore, he came to the Valurium Palace. But he didn't expect that King Valurium would introduce him to the 8th prince and ask him to participate in the Crown Prince competition. To be honest, he wasn't interested in the Crown Prince competition. After all, it had nothing to do with him who became the Crown Prince. However, King Valurium's next words changed his mind. Because King Valurium said, Young Master Lin, I think you don't know about the Crown Prince competition. It's very simple. The Crown Prince competition was a competition for the position of Crown Prince among all the princes of the Tai dynasty. This was an open competition. Every prince could invite the various major factions and outstanding geniuses to help. For example, if the 8th prince became the crown prince, everyone who supported him would be baptized by the dragon vein. That was the dragon vein of the Tang dynasty. Being baptized by the dragon vein was absolutely beneficial to cultivators. Dragon vein baptism. Hearing this, Lin Xian was surprised. He was no stranger to the dragon vein baptism. When he was in the Heavenly South region, he had participated in the Azure Dragon Society. He was the champion at that time and had been baptized by the dragon vein. But the dragon vein of the Heavenly South region was incomparable to the dragon vein of the Tang dynasty. One could imagine how great the benefits would be if he was baptized by the dragon vein of the Tang dynasty. Thinking of this, he understood. No wonder so many experts were willing to participate in the Crown Prince competition. There were such benefits. Chapter 2046. He thought for a while and nodded with a smile. As long as the 8th prince doesn't mind, I will try my best to become the crown prince. Great. Hearing this, the 8th prince smiled satisfactorily. With the participation of Lin Xian, a powerful swordsman, the 8th prince's team would become stronger. However, at this moment, Lin Xian said, 8th prince, I can't go back with you now. Can't go back? What's going on? The 8th prince was stunned. Lin Xian said, I have an agreement with King Valurium to help him complete 3 tasks and enter the 3 mountains behind. I have completed 2 tasks and there is still 1 more mountain that I have yet to enter. I will go after I complete the last task. Hearing this, the 8th prince was stunned for a moment before he understood. This must be King Valurium's idea. King Valurium smiled and said, Young Master Lin, since you have joined the 8th prince's team, you don't have to do the 3rd task. You can enter the Lightning Mountain directly. Really? Thank you, Your Highness. Lin Xian was happy. He knew that King Valurium was giving face to the 8th prince. However, he didn't care about it. He didn't care about the relationship between the kings and the princes. All he wanted was strength. At the next moment, Lin Xian said, 8th prince, when I come out from the Lightning Mountain, I will go and find you. I will wait for you. The 8th prince nodded satisfactorily. King Valurium smiled and said, Since you have met him, why don't you come to my place to drink some spirit tea? I have recently obtained some good spirit tea. Uncle King, you are too polite. I remember that your Hongling spirit tea is the best. The 8th prince said with a smile. Then he, Taoist Long, and King Valurium left the place. Lin Xian turned around and entered the Lightning Mountain. Above the Lightning Mountain, the last mountain. Lin Xian also had the lightning attribute. However, the gap between it and the sea god's ice and hellfire was getting bigger and bigger. Therefore, he rarely used the power of lightning. But now, the power of lightning within the thunderbolt just so happened to make up for this. Therefore, he began to cultivate in seclusion. On the other side, in the palace. On the other hand, the first prince's expression was unusually gloomy and even somewhat sinister. Because he had lost a general, Bai Zijing. That was his most capable swordsman, who was extremely powerful. Originally, he had planned to rely on the White Sun realm to sweep across the world and obtain a huge advantage. However, he did not expect that he would be defeated at the sword sparring competition on Mount Hua. He was even forced to seal his sword for 100 years. If that was the case, he would not be able to help him at all. And his strength would be greatly reduced. Damn it. Damn it. Who can tell me what's going on with that Lin Xian? He had already found out about the sword meet on Mount Hua. He naturally knew that the person who had defeated Bai Zijing was a young man called Lin Xian. However, he had never heard of this person before, which was why he lost so unexpectedly. We also didn't expect Bai Zijing to lose. Yes, it was indeed surprising. The warriors under his command said. However, although Lin Xian's background was unknown, he was definitely related to King Valurium. Otherwise, General Li Huo wouldn't have intervened and taken him away in the end. He must have intervened to protect the kid. Valurium Palace? Hearing this, the first prince narrowed his eyes. This King Valurium usually keeps a very low profile. I once invited him, but he politely refused. Now, I don't even know which prince he's standing behind. No matter which prince he's standing behind, as long as the first prince wants him, he'll be yours. Even if you can't get him, you should get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, if one of the princes really does get him, then he'll be a huge threat. After all, someone who could defeat Bai Zijing was absolutely terrifying. Yes, that's right. Thinking of this, the first prince slammed the table, a sharp glint appearing in his eyes. Sky River Great Master, King of Many Treasures, bring me to Valurium Palace. You must make King Valurium join our side and make him hand over that Lin Xian. If he can't be used by me, then just kill him. There's no need to keep him alive. Don't worry, First Prince. The two men laughed. Sky River Great Master was an old man in white robes, and King of Many Treasures was a middle-aged man with a long beard. After receiving their orders, they turned and left the Great Hall. On the other side, the third prince was somewhat happy. This was because the first prince's loss was undoubtedly good news for him. At the same time, he was also curious about Lin Xian's identity. He was on King Valurium's side. The third prince narrowed his eyes. On the side, a middle-aged man holding a feather fan laughed. Your Highness, should we send someone to Valurium Palace? This King Valurium seems to keep a low profile, but he's actually quite ambitious. I'm guessing that he's already joined one of the princes. However, he's not on our side. Your Highness is wise. Actually, I'm thinking the same thing. I feel that we should rope in that Tanifei. Since he has a grudge against Lin Xian, we should use him to our advantage. Moreover, Tanifei isn't any weaker than Lin Xian or Bai Zijing. Very well, Mr. Yu, then I'll have to trouble you. I'll leave this matter to you. You must rope in Tanifei under my command. The third prince smiled. He was very satisfied and trusted this Mr. Yu. Valurium Palace. King Valurium and the eighth prince had left to discuss the details of the battle for the position of crown prince. Lin Xian was still in closed-door cultivation, absorbing the power of lightning with all his might. However, Valurium Manor was greeted by two figures. One was an old man in white robes, and the other was a middle-aged man with a long beard. The Sky River Great Master and the King of Many Treasures had been sent by the first prince. Both of them were great experts with great strength. At this moment, they were surrounded by powerful auras. They stood high in the sky and scanned the ground with their souls. Immediately, their powerful soul power enveloped an area of 10,000 miles. Everything below was captured by the two men. King Valurium wasn't here? Sky River Great Master was a bit surprised. He really hadn't sensed King Valurium's aura. The King of Many Treasures sneered at the side. If he wasn't here, then there was nothing to talk about. Go down and capture that Lin brat. All right, let's do that. The Sky River Great Master also revealed a sinister smile. Both of them were vicious and merciless. As great experts, they didn't take Lin Xian seriously at all. Lin Xian might be able to contend against one of them, but if the two of them attacked together, he wouldn't have a chance to escape. Where was that brat? After looking around, the Sky River Great Master frowned again. He hadn't sensed the other's aura either. According to the information he'd received from the Sword of Mount Hua, the other was a swordsman with a very fierce aura. It was easy to identify him. However, the Sky River Great Master couldn't find him. Let me do it. Chapter 2047. The Origin Soul Mirror. It was a powerful Earth-rank treasure that could track anyone's movements. It should be able to find that Lin brat. In the next moment, King of Many Treasures activated the Origin Soul Mirror in his hand. A mysterious aura emerged and enveloped Valurium Manor below. 30 minutes later, King of Many Treasures smiled sinisterly. He'd found his target. Found him? The Sky River Great Ancestor asked when he saw King of Many Treasures smile. King of Many Treasures nodded. Yes, I found him. Come with me. In the next moment, the two tore through the air and disappeared in a flash of light. They used powerful abilities to conceal their presence so that no one in the manor would know that they'd entered. In order to conceal their presence, King of Many Treasures took out a large purple umbrella that floated above their heads. The purple umbrella was engraved with mysterious Dao runes. Tens of thousands of runes hung down from it, covering the two. All auras were concealed. Therefore, even if there were experts in Valuria Manor, they wouldn't be able to sense them. After flying for a while, they finally arrived in front of Hell Mountain. The Sky River Great Ancestor and King of Many Treasures narrowed their eyes when they saw the three strange peaks that towered into the clouds. What a strange mountain! What terrifying power! The two were shocked. They hadn't expected Valuria Manor to have such a treasure. Why do I feel like this aura belongs to a peerless monster king? Whatever, be careful. There's more to this mountain than meets the eye. That brat's aura is in one of the lightning peaks. Should we attack? The Sky River Great Ancestor asked. Yes. Let's do it here. We'll go all out. I'm sure we'll be able to take down that brat quickly. However, let me set up a formation around him first. King of Many Treasures was called that because he had many treasures. Therefore, it didn't take long for him to take out another heaven-sealing formation, which completely sealed off the three peaks of hell and isolated their auras. After doing all this, the two looked at each other and grinned sinisterly. Hum hum. The two turned into flickering shadows and tore through the air, flying towards the lightning peaks. They appeared in the lightning peaks in the blink of an eye. Their king domains expanded and enveloped the surroundings. Lin Xian opened his eyes when he sensed this. A cold glint appeared in his eyes. He was not surprised by what had happened. Although he was cultivating in seclusion, there was still the dark red divine dragon beside him. With the dark red divine dragon's strength, it would have discovered the other party long ago. Hence, Lin Xian was prepared. Who are you people? How dare they make a move in Valuria Manor? Lin Xian slowly stood up and asked coldly. In the void, the Tianhe Great Ancestor and the King of Many Treasures were also stunned. They did not expect the other party to be so calm. Could it be that he didn't know his own situation? Kid, it doesn't matter who we are. What's important is that you come back with us obediently. What if I don't? Lin Xian sneers, then don't blame us for being rude. The two of them coldly shouted. Then, their king's domains roiled, exploding out with extremely terrifying energy. Space twisted as two massive energies tore through the void. They were like sharp heavenly swords as they viciously slashed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian executed Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps. A dragon image appeared beneath his feet as he took a step forward, instantly dodging the spatial cracks that filled the sky. He came to the side, his brows furrowed. Two great experts and elite great experts at that. It seemed that the other party had come prepared. They must have figured out his strength before making a move. His current combat strength was probably already known during the sword duel on Mount Hua. Therefore, sending an elite great expert would not be enough to take him down. Only 2 elite almighties could pose a threat to him. You're quite fast, but do you think you can dodge all of my attacks? Up above, the Tianhe Great Ancestor sneered. They had a general understanding of Lin Xian. They knew that he was fast and skilled with the sword. However, the other party knew nothing about them. Therefore, this was their advantage. For 2 elite almighties to take down a young brat, it would be a piece of cake. It seems that you know me very well. But do you really think you know me? Lin Xian sneered. Do you really think you can take me down with just the 2 of you? What a fool's dream. Ruffian dragon, go ahead. I haven't exercised my muscles in a long time. This is a good time to play with them. The dark red dragon sneered and attacked quickly. It charged toward the Lord of Many Treasures. How dare a snake come over? You're courting death. Don't tell me you think you can contend against me, kid? Seeing the dark red dragon flying over, the Lord of Many Treasures sneered disdainfully. Boom! He struck out with his palm, forming a vast and unparalleled force that enveloped the area below. Bang! However, in the next moment, he was stunned. This was because the dark red divine dragon's divine dragon tail whip had sent his vast energy flying. Not only that, but the other party also stretched out its dragon claws and grabbed at him. That swift and fierce aura made his hair stand on end. Damn it, what's that? How can it have such powerful attack power? The Lord of Many Treasures was stunned. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful. Therefore, in the next moment, he and the dark red dragon fought. On the other side, Lin Xian had his eyes on the Tianhe Great Ancestor. What did you say just now? You want to take me away? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. As he spoke, he shouted, clenched his hand into a fist, and quickly punched out. The violent power that filled the sky turned into a black dragon and rushed towards the Tianhe Great Ancestor. Instantly, the void where he was shattered. The Tianhe Great Ancestor's expression changed. He quickly retreated and barely dodged the punch. Then, his expression became extremely gloomy. That was because he realized that their advantage was gone. Originally, they thought that it would be 2 against 1 so that they could quickly take down the other party. But now, it seemed that it was impossible. The Lord of Many Treasures was actually restrained by a red snake, so he could only face Lin Xian alone. This would greatly increase the difficulty of his success. But even so, he still had to make a move. He did not believe that a brat could overturn the sky and defeat him. Therefore, in the next moment, he quickly made a move. A blue heavenly river appeared beside him, emitting a rumbling sound. Then, along with his palm, it quickly rushed forward like a divine rainbow that streaked across the void. This attack was too fierce. Everywhere it passed, everything was shattered. The Milky Way that filled the sky enveloped Lin Xian, wanting to kill him. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly and formed a seal with his palm. Ice Guardian. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a cold aura quickly appeared on his body, forming a huge ice queen that enveloped him. Chapter 2048. The Ice Queen was 1,000 feet tall. Her body was hazy, and there were 2 blue wings on her back. At this moment, she quickly closed the dragon and protected Lin Xian. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying Milky Way collided violently with the Ice Queen. However, it didn't break. On the contrary, after the collision, countless frost formed on the Milky Way and it quickly froze. Not only that, but the entire space was also filled with endless cold air. The Sky River Great Ancestor felt that the spiritual power and speed in his body were suppressed and became slower than before. Boom, boom, boom. Just as he was shocked that the other party had such a terrifying ice aura, the wind and clouds above his head changed, forming a huge vortex. Moreover, there was the sound of thunder. Terrifying bolts of thunder appeared above him. This was originally a mountain of thunder, and at this moment, it was surrounded by violent thunder and lightning. However, the Sky River Great Ancestor was more powerful. He used his king's domain to block all the thunder and lightning outside. Thus, he didn't receive the impact of the thunder and lightning. But now, the change above his head made his expression change drastically. He found that his king's domain couldn't block the thunder and lightning above him. Terrifying thunderclouds gathered rapidly, and the black mass made him feel suffocated. 5-colored lightning flashed in the clouds. On the other hand, Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. Have a taste of my new killer move, 5 thunders. As his voice fell, in the sky in front of him, a bolt of lightning fell. It was 5-colored lightning, and it carried a violent power that filled the sky. Like a wild dragon, it directly struck the Sky River Great Ancestor. Boom, boom. In the next moment, the 5-colored lightning exploded, and a huge roar sounded. Everything in front of him was completely drowned by the sea of lightning. The huge thunder pierced through the void. This scene made even the King of Many Treasures, who was fighting in the distance, change his expression drastically. He didn't expect that the other party would be so difficult to deal with. It was far beyond his expectations. Sure enough, when the lightning in front of him disappeared, the Sky River Great Ancestor's figure appeared. However, he was in a sorry state. His body was charred black, and it was obvious that he had been struck by lightning. There was even black smoke coming out of his mouth. Damn brat! I'm going to kill you! The Sky River Great Ancestor roared crazily. It seemed that he was really angry. Boom, boom. He waved his hands, and the Milky Way around him surged, emitting a mighty power. A terrifying blue light shot into the sky. The Milky Way quickly covered the Tianhe Great Ancestor's body. Then, as his hands moved, 2 huge blue palms were formed and blasted out. He once again charged towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian's body was enveloped in the ice barrier. Then he pulled out the 9 Hell Demon sword and rushed over. With a wave of his sword, a terrifying black sword light tore through the void. It was like the netherworld as it directly appeared in front of the Tianhe Great Ancestor. The Sky River Great Ancestor slapped the 9 underworld demon sword with both hands, creating a loud sound. The two of them quickly engaged in an intense battle, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to split. The Milky Way shone brilliantly. At this moment, the Sky River Great Ancestor roared. Immediately, the Sky River on his body changed. Stars appeared in the surging Milky Way, dazzling and emitting a mysterious aura. Peng ping peng. Some of the stars rotated and collided violently with Lin Xian's Ice Guardian. Then Lin Xian was pushed back. "Kid, do you think that's all I have? I'll let you know the consequences of provoking me." The Tianhe Great Ancestor sneered. His white hair danced in the wind, and 2 sharp rays of light shot out from his eyes. At this moment, the Tianhe Great Ancestor was like a demon king. He had the power to shatter the heavens and split the earth. He raised his hands high, and the sky gathered to form a huge vortex. Milky Way slash. He raised the Milky Way with one hand and slashed it forward as if it had turned into a blade light. This attack was like a rainbow. It was really like a sky full of stars. With a powerful pressure, it completely enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian also snorted coldly. His body emitted black flames that instantly covered the area. At this moment, he was like a god of war. His aura was like a rainbow, and he was unstoppable. Fire God Roar. Lin Xian once again used a powerful killer move. Immediately, the Ice Guardian on his body disappeared and was replaced by a flame giant. With a furious roar, heaven and earth shook, and the mountains and rivers shattered. The powerful sound waves mixed with the terrifying flames formed a violent and boundless black wave that rushed forward. In the next moment, the two collided. The two collided fiercely in the sky. The Milky Way shook, and the light flickered. The terrifying flame energy surged and shattered the void. Clang! Another earth-shattering attack. Then, the Milky Way in the sky shattered into pieces under the fire god's roar. He actually broke my Milky Way slash? The Tianhe Great Ancestor's pupils constricted. He didn't expect the other party's flames to be so powerful that they could burn his Milky Way slash. It really surprised him. However, what made his scalp tingle was still behind. Because on the opposite side, Lin Xian made another move. He raised the 9 darkness demonic sword high, and the flame giant on his body did the same. Not only that, but 100 feet long flame sword appeared in the sky. The flames jumped and burned the void. It also emitted a terrifying murderous aura. The sword slashed down, splitting the void into 2 halves. The terrifying flame giant sword completely enveloped the Tianhe Great Ancestor. It was too shocking. Even in the sky, there was a loud dragon's roar. Because not only did this flame giant sword fuse with the hellfire, but it also had the power of the great dragon sword soul. It could be said that it made people despair. Even the king of many treasures, who was fighting with the dark red divine dragon, felt his scalp tingle. He also felt the threat of death. In the next moment, he decisively retreated thousands of miles and looked ahead in shock. The void in front of him collapsed, and the Tianhe Great Ancestor's king's domain was split open by the sword. The power of lightning surged out, and the Tianhe Great Ancestor's clothes were torn. There was a huge sword scar on his body. The sword scar was very terrifying. It had split open his inner armor, revealing deep white bones. Go! When the king of many treasures saw this scene, his scalp tingled. He turned into a stream of light and quickly arrived beside the Tianhe Great Ancestor. Then he soared into the sky, not daring to stay here at all. "Wanna leave? Not so easy." The dark red divine dragon sneered and flicked its dragon claws, covering the sky and the earth, covering a radius of thousands of miles. The terrifying dragon claws carried the dragon's might and shattered the void. The terrifying power enveloped the two of them. The king of many treasures' expression changed. He raised his hand and threw out a large green bell. It grew bigger and bigger, like a green mountain, and resisted the dragon claws in the sky. At the same time, he quickly fled into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he was out of the mountain of lightning. Then, he broke the formation and fled out of Valuria Manor. You want to leave? Let's see if I'll let you. Chapter 2049. Valuria Manor hadn't noticed the previous battle because of the formation's defenses. But now that the formation had been removed, the aura here immediately attracted Valuria Manor's attention. All of a sudden, a cold aura appeared, and powerful figures quickly descended. What followed was a series of thunderous voices. Who dares to behave so atrociously in the manor? Crack crack. Lord of Many Treasures felt his scalp go numb when he saw the experts from Valuria Manor. Honored Master Tianhe was even paler. He'd already consumed many treasures to stop his injuries from worsening. But the sword aura on his wounds couldn't be erased in a short time. He knew that he'd lost this time. He'd underestimated his opponent. His opponent was too strong, and the sword aura was too strange. It seemed indestructible. Lord of Many Treasures sighed. He couldn't face the situation head-on. So, he took out a spatial jade slip. This was a very precious teleportation jade slip. There was a teleportation formation sealed inside, which could teleport people out. That was what he was using right now. Boom. The red jade slip burned, and runes that filled the sky gathered under their feet, forming a spatial array platform. The two of them quickly disappeared. When the formation disappeared, several powerful figures suddenly appeared in the surroundings. Then, a giant palm slammed into the spatial vortex. Bang! The palm slammed down with earth-shattering force, but it was still a step too late. Lord of Many Treasures and honored Master Tianhe had already been teleported away. What's going on? What's going on? General Li Hua had also arrived. He looked at Lin Xian and asked in a low voice. I don't know. They're probably here to assassinate me. I was cultivating on Lightning Mountain when they suddenly attacked. But one of them was heavily injured by me, so they ran away. Heavily injured by you? Hearing this, the experts' eyelids twitched wildly. Although they hadn't seen the newcomers clearly, they could tell from their auras that they were elites among experts. It was inconceivable that such people would be heavily injured by a 6-star king. They knew that Lin Xian was strong enough to defeat Bai Zijing, but no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to contend against 2 elite experts. However, Lin Xian did it, which really surprised them greatly. They knew that the young man before them must have a secret that they were unaware of. Of course, there was no way they could pry into such a secret. All right, it's good that you're fine. Be more careful. Now that His Highness is not in the mansion, you should be careful. I got it. Lin Xian nodded and said, since their assassination failed, I've decided to leave immediately and head to the royal city to meet up with the 8th prince. All right, then be careful. General Li Hua nodded and instructed. Indeed, now was the best time to leave, because the news hadn't spread yet. Otherwise, it would have been a while later. After those people received the news and learned of Lin Xian's strength, they would send even stronger assassins. After bidding farewell to General Li Hua, Lin Xian descended from the sky and flew towards the imperial city of the Tai Empire. On the other side, Lord of Many Treasures and Master Tianhe had also quickly fled Valuria Manor. Then, the two of them appeared in a barren mountain. Damn it! How could that kid be so strong? Master Tianhe gnashed his teeth, his expression extremely ugly. On the other side, Lord of Many Treasures' expression was grave as well. He hurriedly sent news to the first prince that the situation had changed. The royal palace. The first prince's expression darkened when he received the news. He hadn't expected that 2 elite experts would fail to capture the young man. This was truly unexpected. Moreover, after this incident, he and Lin Xian had probably formed a grudge. Therefore, it was impossible to recruit the young man. Therefore, he resolved to eliminate Lin Xian immediately. He couldn't allow the other princes to use him. If 2 elite almighties couldn't kill you, then 4 almighties would do. I don't believe that you can defy the heavens. The first prince sneered. He had no shortage of great experts. Therefore, he immediately sent 4 of them to Valuria Manor to kill the enemy. However, he was destined to fail because Lin Xian had long since left Valuria Manor. On the other side, the third prince was very happy because he'd successfully recruited Tanifei, the genius of the Dayan's sacred land, to his side. Now, he was even stronger than before. He was confident that he would emerge victorious in the battle for the crown prince's position. He would suppress the first prince and the eighth prince. The crown prince's position will be mine. The third prince smiled proudly. Time slowly passed. On this day, Lin Xian's figure appeared above a formation in the capital. He'd used Valuria Manor's transportation formation to arrive at the capital. The capital city was vast and majestic. Moreover, Lin Xian could sense the rich spirit energy in the air as soon as he appeared. He could even feel the surging draconic aura beneath the ground. It was as if a peerless beast was entrenched beneath the earth. Not long after, Lin Xian used the method given to him by General Li Hua to contact the eighth prince. The air rippled as 4 burly men appeared. They were bare-chested, their muscles bulging like horned dragons. Each one of them was incredibly powerful. However, they were merely sedan bearers. They slowly descended while carrying a red palanquin. "Are you Lin Xian, Sir Lin?" one of the men asked in a low voice as he looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian nodded. "No, I am. The eighth prince has sent us to receive Sir Lin." They opened the palanquin as they spoke. "All right." Lin Xian nodded and climbed into the palanquin. The 4 burly men lifted the palanquin and soared into the air. They turned into a streak of light and disappeared into the air. In an imperial garden, the eighth prince sat in a pavilion, sipping tea and admiring the flowers. At this time, a red light flashed in the sky. An enormous red palanquin carried by 4 burly men quickly descended. The eighth prince narrowed his eyes when he saw this. The guards beside him also quickly walked forward. When the palanquin landed, 2 maids opened the curtains respectfully. Lin Xian then walked out from the palanquin. "Ha, Sir Lin, we meet again." The eighth prince laughed when he saw Lin Xian walk out. "Greetings, eighth prince." Lin Xian cupped his fists and smiled. "Come, brother Lin, have a taste of my spiritual tea. This is an 8,000-year-old red-robed spiritual tea." "Thank you, eighth prince." Lin Xian did not stand on ceremony. He walked into the pavilion and sat on the stone bench. Then, he picked up the cup of spiritual tea in front of him and slowly tasted it. "It is indeed a good tea," Lin Xian praised. Indeed, this was an 8,000-year-old spiritual tea. It contained an extremely powerful spiritual energy. Yu, who was fanning himself, said in a deep voice, "Third prince, although this is unexpected, it is also within our consideration. Although that kid has defeated by Zijing, it will not be so easy for him to defeat us. In our hands, we have the Tyrant Fist and the First Saber. It is impossible for him to defeat us." "That's right." The third prince calmed down and sat down again. His eyes flickered as he began to think about the future. When the first prince heard the news, he flew into a rage. He was about to go crazy because he did not expect Lin Xian to join the eighth prince. This was something that he did not expect. He originally wanted to kill Lin Xian, but now, the eighth prince had benefited. "First prince, what should we do?" The cultivators under the first prince were also frowning. This was not good news for them either. A mere 6-star king is not a decisive factor. At most, he will only give us some pressure. The first prince also calmed down and snorted coldly. Indeed, he was the son of the current empress, and he had many experts and geniuses under his command. Although he had lost by Zijing, he still had other peerless geniuses. "Go and ask mother if the person we invited has arrived," the first prince said. He had already prepared. He had already started making preparations. When Bai Zijing was forced to seal his sword, he had asked his mother to find a mysterious and powerful race. He asked a genius from there to come out and help him. Now that he calculated the time, there should be a result. Sure enough, not long after, his subordinate returned. He also told the first prince that the person had arrived. "Is that so? Quickly invite him in." The first prince stood up, very excited. The marshalists under his command were also extremely puzzled. Just what kind of powerhouse could make the first prince treat him so seriously? Soon they saw it. That was because a figure walked in with large strides. It was a young man wearing golden armor. His entire body emitted a resplendent light, and his golden hair was as dazzling as the sun. As he walked, the void trembled rapidly, as if it would split open at any moment. So powerful! Who was he? The other cultivators in the hall were extremely shocked, and their scalps went numb. That was because they felt that the blood in their bodies was trembling along with him. This was too terrifying. Even the expressions of those mighty figures changed. The first prince. The young man in golden armor looked forward and nodded slightly, not bowing. However, the first prince was not angry. Instead, he smiled. He smiled and said, "The Golden Lion King lives up to his reputation." What? The Golden Lion King? What a strange name. The other peerless experts were shocked. One of them said, "Could it be the demon race?" They were too shocked because the other party had a dense and monstrous aura. He was like a peerless, ferocious beast, causing their hearts to tremble. In fact, with just a glance, their hearts trembled uncontrollably. Hearing this, the young man in golden armor snorted coldly. His gaze was like a sharp sword as he looked in a certain direction. Immediately, the cultivator who spoke earlier spat out a large mouthful of blood. As if struck by lightning, he directly crashed into the wall. Chapter 2051. It was a middle-aged man. At this moment, he looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face was incomparably pale. He covered his wound and stared straight ahead. The others were also stunned. Their expressions all changed. "How dare you? Who told you to attack here?" They were really angry. The other party attacked without saying a word. They didn't even know the reason. The first prince's expression also changed. He quickly stopped them and told them not to move. "Someone, bring out the best healing medicine." He helped the middle-aged man up and said, "You're wrong. Don't talk nonsense." He wasn't from the devil race. He was from the war race. He was a human. What? War race? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. However, the elders cried out in alarm. Could it be the legendary war clan? Weren't they extinct? How could they still be alive? Hearing this, the elder's expression changed greatly and he quickly shut his mouth. Because someone had insulted the other party before, the golden youth attacked. Therefore, he didn't dare to speak at all. The first prince explained that the war race hadn't disappeared. They just lived in seclusion in the vast mountains. Ordinary people couldn't find them. This time, it had taken a lot of effort to invite him out from behind the scenes. So that was the case. Hearing this, everyone understood. No wonder this youth was so powerful. The war race was a legendary race that had been passed down since ancient times. They lived for battle and were very powerful. They had ancient battle skills. However, they disappeared 10,000 years ago. In the recent few thousand years, they didn't appear in the Middle State continent. Therefore, everyone thought that they were extinct. They didn't expect that they would appear again. Next, the first prince sent the injured middle-aged man away. Then he asked someone to bring the Golden Lion King away to rest. The main hall returned to silence. Everyone was still shocked. They didn't expect the first prince to have a genius from the war race. This way, their chances of winning would definitely increase by a lot. This news couldn't be hidden at all. Naturally, the third prince, the eighth prince, and the others also caught wind of it. When the third prince found out that the first prince had invited a genius from the war race, he was extremely shocked. The joy that he originally felt from taking in Tanifei disappeared completely in an instant. His expression became gloomy again. Mr. Yu, who was beside him, also had a serious expression. It seemed that Empress really went through a lot of trouble for the eldest prince. He had actually found the war clan that had been living in seclusion for 10,000 years. It had to be said that it was really surprising. This time around, Bai Zijing had been forced to seal his sword, thinking that the first prince would lose a lot of strength. But from the looks of it now, not only did he not suffer any losses, he even became stronger than before. The war clan was a legendary clan. They were born for battle and were extremely terrifying. The people who came this time were not ordinary people either. They should be stronger than the White Child realm. At the side, Mr. Yu also said, Third prince, let's arrange the lineup for the first stage. While the third prince was arranging his troops, the eighth prince had also received news from his subordinates. Immediately, he frowned. Lin Xian asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" Previously, he saw that the eighth prince was beaming with joy, but now, his expression was extremely solemn. He guessed that something must have happened. "Brother Lin, I won't hide it from you. Something happened." News had just arrived that the first prince had found a genius from the battle race. Battle race? Lin Xian frowned. What race is that? He did not know. He had not been in the Tai dynasty for long. Naturally, he had not heard of the battle race. At this time, the guards quickly came over and respectfully said, "Geniuses, the prince invites you." "Young Master Lin, the eighth prince invites you." A guard came in front of Lin Xian and said respectfully. Lin Xian nodded, stood up, and followed the guard out of the palace. This scene was happening everywhere in the palace. All the princes were gathering their geniuses. It seemed that the first competition was about to begin. In the huge palace, the eighth prince stood with his hands behind his back. Beside him stood the red-robed middle-aged Taoist Long. It could be said that whoever obtained the title of number one would have endless trouble. Lin Xian also knew this point. However, on this occasion, how could he back down? Suddenly, he snorted coldly. An extremely sharp sword wave rushed out of his body and spread in all directions. It shattered all of those gazes. So powerful. The surrounding young experts were shocked. They did not expect that the other party could resist the joint pressure of so many experts. They had to admit that he was indeed very powerful. No wonder he could defeat Bai Zijing. He was indeed worthy of his reputation. However, at this moment, the eighth prince also laughed loudly. "Third brother is very concerned about my friend." However, Brother Lin was not the only new expert who came this time. There was another one who was said to be the legendary genius of the war tribe. The eighth prince smiled and led the flames of war away from Lin Xian to the first prince. Sure enough, when these words were said, everyone frowned again. Because the title of the genius of the battle group was even more powerful. The war tribe was a legendary race that had disappeared for nearly 10,000 years. Who would have thought that they would appear again now? This was definitely a shocking matter. Therefore, for a moment, all of their gazes looked at the first prince again. Moreover, they locked onto a young man with a golden light. The young man was clad in golden armor and looked extraordinarily valiant. His golden hair danced wildly in the wind, and he was filled with wildness. Was he the genius of the war tribe? Sure enough, what a violent aura. It felt like a peerless demonic beast. He was a peerless enemy. For a moment, the expressions of many young geniuses were incomparably solemn. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. To be honest, the other party's aura was indeed powerful, which made him feel fearful. Was that the war tribe? He was indeed very strong. Lin Xian's heart sank. Just from the aura, he knew that the other party was very strong. Moreover, he knew that the war tribe was rumored to be so godly, so they must have extremely terrifying combat skills. How strong would the other party be? Compared to the White Sun realm, who would be stronger? Other than the golden-haired young man, Lin Xian also discovered a few other powerful figures. According to his judgment, these people should be the experts that he knew from the information. They were distributed among the first prince, the eighth prince, the third prince, and a few other princes. Each of them was a peerless figure and could not be underestimated. All right, I believe that everyone should have received the rules before. Now, I won't talk nonsense. The competition is about to begin. An old voice sounded. In the sky, on the clouds, a few powerful figures sat cross-legged. They were the hosts of this competition. At this moment, one of the old men said coldly, "Dong dong dong." Below, on the ground, there was a war drum that was rapidly beating, letting out a low sound. Chapter 2053. Not long after, the sound of the war drums gradually subsided. Then, everyone felt an inexplicable force attracting them. But soon, the attraction disappeared. Everyone knew that they were not the first to fight. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned. He could feel a powerful force calling out to him from the beginning. It wanted him to take the first step. Since that was the case, Lin Xian did not hesitate. He stood up, took a step forward, and arrived on the ground in the distance. What? He was the first to fight. Everyone was surprised to see Lin Xian. They did not expect that the first to fight would be the #1 swordsman whose name had spread throughout the empire. They did not expect that the first to fight would be Lin Xian. Not to mention the other princes, even the 8th prince was slightly surprised. The experts he brought were also surprised. What #1 swordsman? How arrogant! How dare he shout like that? Was it so easy to be #1? Many swordsmen sneered. How could someone who was arrogant be called the #1 swordsman? At that moment, a young man next to the 6th prince sneered disdainfully. Hearing that, the 8th prince frowned. Lin Xian also raised his head and looked into the distance. He asked coldly, "You're not convinced? Come over here. Come on, I'm not afraid of you." The young man sneered. He was also an expert swordsman and thought that his swordsmanship was superior. Naturally, he was not convinced by others. So, at that moment, he attacked decisively. In the next moment, he took a step forward, and a terrifying aura surged from his body. His entire body was like a golden stream of light, quickly flying over from the horizon. It was boundless, and it instantly enveloped the entire space. Then the swordsman attacked. A sharp sword light shone and shot into the sky. Because the moment he arrived, the battle had already begun. Of course, he would not show mercy. What #1 swordsman? What Lin Xian? He had never heard of them. You're just a piece of trash in front of me. I'll cut you in half with my sword. The swordsman sneered, and the sharp sword light quickly slashed down. The void trembled and was mercilessly torn apart. The sharp sword light instantly arrived above Lin Xian. The terrifying sword chi tore through the heavens and earth, causing Lin Xian's red robes to flutter like leaves in the wind. Go to hell, Brett. In the sky, the powerful swordsman sneered. In the distance, the eyes of the martialist princes on the platform flickered. It seemed like they could already see Lin Xian being split in half by this sword. However, Lin Xian stood there like a boulder amidst the terrifying sword chi. He did not dodge at all, nor did he show any fear. His gaze was so deep and calm. It was like a sea of stars, vast and boundless, making it impossible for anyone to see through it. He raised his head slightly and looked at the sharp sword light in the sky. What was going on? Was he scared out of his wits? Why didn't he dodge or counterattack? When the princes and experts in the distance saw this scene, they were all very puzzled. The 6th prince sneered. What a piece of trash. The #1 swordsman couldn't even withstand a single blow. That brat was probably scared out of his wits. He couldn't even resist. The 6th prince sneered disdainfully. On the other side, the 8th prince was also frowning. The 8th prince was fine, but the martialists he brought were also frowning. This was because they could not figure out why Lin Xian's performance was so bad. In the Sky Palace, Gu Mo laughed wildly. He realized that Lin Xian was worse than he had imagined. When he thought of this, he became even more excited. He activated the sword light with all his might and quickly slashed it down. However, he was soon stunned. This was because he saw Lin Xian's eyes. His gaze was so deep and calm. There was no fear in it at all. The 3rd prince's first move was even more terrifying. The sharp blade tore the world apart. He didn't even make a move. He just used his eyes to send out a blade light and defeated his opponent. In addition, there was a swordsman who was more eye-catching. The person beside the 4th prince was called Jian Shisan. This person looked very ordinary. If he was placed in the crowd, no one would be able to tell that there was anything unusual about him. However, when he attacked, the wind and clouds changed color. A terrifying murderous intent spread in all directions, making everyone's hearts turn cold. If it weren't for the royal family's elders in the sky, his opponent would have been killed by a single sword strike. This caused many people to look at Sword 13 with faces full of fear. Because Jian Shisan's sword technique was a legendary killing sword technique. The moment the sword was drawn, the person would be destroyed. It was terrifying. There was also a man beside the ninth prince called Gao Jichao. He was very terrifying. He used a soul technique. When he used his soul technique, his eyes turned white. It was extremely empty and strange. Soul attacks were impossible to guard against. Therefore, his opponent was directly affected by the illusion and was attacked. In an instant, he was like a puppet being controlled by the other party. The 15th prince was not willing to fall behind. He had a woman in his hand who was very powerful. She looked sweet and petite. She looked like a little bird that relied on people. However, when she fought, it made people's eyelids twitch wildly. This was because the woman directly opened the demon beast pouch. Several terrifying demon kings were released. Each of them was extremely terrifying. They were all 6-star demon kings. At this moment, they joined hands and defeated their opponents easily. These were all very terrifying geniuses. Among so many geniuses, they were so dazzling that people could distinguish them at a glance. However, the more terrifying one was not them, but the golden youth from the battle group. He was wearing golden armor. When he walked out, his opponent immediately admitted defeat. He didn't even have the courage to fight. It couldn't be helped. The terrifying battle intent emitted by the Golden Lion King was too powerful. His opponent's mind was about to collapse. He couldn't fight it at all. This was also the only person who won without a fight. This made the first prince very satisfied. At this moment, a young man in white beside the 14th prince made his move. This young man was very strange. In such a formal and tense situation, he was actually half lying there, holding a red gourd and drinking nonstop. His eyes were even a little blurry. It seemed like he didn't care about the competition at all. Lin Xian looked at this figure and frowned slightly. This person wasn't on the list that the 8th prince gave him. In other words, this person wasn't too outstanding before. Otherwise, he would have been recorded. Because the people on the list were all peerless geniuses under the princes. They were very terrifying. They were worthy of being careful. The drunk young man with the red gourd wasn't on the list. His opponent was one of the first prince's subordinates, a bald man in a black robe. This man's aura was very cold, like a demon king of darkness. It made people's hearts tremble. He looked at the drunk young man and frowned slightly. Then he sneered, "Kid, you're not my match at all. So, I advise you to give up the competition." Chapter 2056. Boom. He was hit by the sea of fire and was sent flying while vomiting blood. The dark monk had lost. The crowd was shocked and could not believe their eyes. The dark monk was extremely terrifying and was listed as a powerful enemy. However, he had lost to an unknown drunk young man. Everyone could not believe it. The first prince's face was gloomy and his eyes were filled with coldness. He snorted coldly. "What a piece of trash. How dare you embarrass me?" The dark monk's defeat surprised the crowd. They did not expect the drunk young man to be so powerful. The 14th prince smiled in satisfaction because he knew the strength of the drunk young man. The drunk young man did not usually show his strength, but his true strength was extremely terrifying. As expected, the moment the drunk young man attacked, he displayed a powerful combat strength. The drunk young man appeared in front of the crowd for the first time in this battle. Every peerless genius frowned and was secretly on guard. The competition continued and the various geniuses attacked again. The battle was unusually intense. Among them, there were peerless geniuses, and there were also dark horses. In short, there were winners and losers among the princes. However, overall, the first prince, the third prince, and the 8th prince were in the lead. Following closely behind them were the 4th prince, the 15th prince, the 9th prince, and the 14th prince. Of course, the princes who were lagging behind looked gloomy. However, they were still able to keep their composure. That was because the battle had just begun and everyone had a chance to attack again. Therefore, they could afford to wait. Soon, the rounds were over. Those who had finished their battle quickly sat down cross-legged and quickly swallowed pills and treasures to recover their inner strength and heal their injuries. That was because no one knew when they would have to fight in such a battle. Therefore, they had to maintain their peak condition at all times to achieve good results. Soon, The battle drums sounded. At that moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes again and stood up. Is this guy attacking again? When the crowd saw Lin Xian's actions, they became nervous. Previously, they had witnessed Lin Xian defeating a strong opponent with a single move. Everyone had listed Lin Xian as an extremely dangerous person. Now that they saw him fighting, they became nervous again. That was because they did not know who Lin Xian's opponent would be. If it was him, would he be able to withstand it? Lin Xian took a step forward. His figure was like a sword light as he arrived on the battlefield. Then he scanned the surroundings. Feeling Lin Xian's sharp gaze, many people trembled and felt their scalps go numb. Some even didn't dare to look straight at him. Powerful kings like the First Blade and the Fist Tyrant snorted coldly as their eyes shone with a fierce light. For a time, it could be said that the atmosphere was extremely tense. This was especially true for the first slash. His expression was solemn, and his gaze was like a sharp heavenly blade that sliced through the void. A terrifying saber intent gushed out of his body. That was because he was known as the number 1 swordsman, while his opponent was known as the number 1 swordsman. Both of them were in first place, but it was unknown whose sword was stronger and whose saber was stronger. Therefore, when Saber saw Lin Xian for the first time, his gaze was extremely cold. He even wanted to make a move to determine the victor between them. Clang, clang. Their gazes collided in the air, creating dazzling sparks. Even the void was cut open, forming cracks. Everyone held their breaths, thinking that there was going to be an earth-shattering battle between the two of them. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian shifted his gaze. In front, Tan Yifei came to the battlefield, looked at Lin Xian, and sneered. Lin Xian also snorted coldly. So much nonsense. Let's fight. I'll let you know how big the gap is between you and the number 1 swordsman. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Hearing the provocation, Tan Yifei's face turned gloomy. In the next moment, he snorted coldly, and a powerful force surged out of his body, turning into a shocking sword light. It pierced through heaven and earth. In the next moment, a terrifying explosion sounded in the sky. The entire void was smashed into nothingness, and cracks filled the sky. In the distance, the crowd gasped. This was because they had only just started fighting, and both sides had already displayed such powerful super skills. It was truly shocking. Beside the 14th prince, the drunk young man squinted his eyes, which were shining with golden light. What a terrifying flame power! What kind of flame was that? He was extremely surprised. Because he was also a fire-type king, he had powerful flames in his hands. However, at this moment, the black flames on Lin Xian's body also posed a great threat to him, so he had to be serious. In the sky, the black greatsword was blocked, and it could not descend at all. Tan Yifei also frowned. He did not expect Lin Xian to be able to block his killer move. It was truly a surprise. Lin Xian said indifferently, "You want to fight for the first sword with just this little bit of strength? You're too naive. You're courting death." Hearing this, Tan Yifei was enraged. In the next moment he roared again, and the sharp sword chi on his body exploded again. Edgeless greatsword. It was another killer move, and countless black cracks appeared in the sky. The entire space trembled rapidly. Obviously, Tan Yifei had used another terrifying sword Dao killer move. Lin Xian also snorted coldly and put his palms together. Suddenly, the black giant on his body also changed rapidly. Then a pitch-black, 100-foot-long black flame greatsword appeared in the sky, held by the giant. Then it slashed forward. Everywhere it passed, the void was mercilessly torn apart. Then, it collided with the black dragon-like greatsword. The sky collapsed again, and everything within a 10,000-mile radius was enveloped by an invisible sword wave. In the sky, countless thunderous sounds were heard. After a long time, it slowly disappeared. Then, 2 figures could be seen standing in front of them. Both of their faces were solemn. In the distance, the crowd also exclaimed. Those 2 were so strong. They were the top prodigies of the younger generation. Yes, those 2 were probably just testing the waters and had not used their full strength yet. After all, Tanny Fei had not used the Dian sword technique yet. Until now, Lin Xian had not drawn his sword and was only using sword qi to fight. Those two were so strong that no one could fight against them except for a few prodigies. Exclamations were heard one after another. Obviously, the crowd was shocked by the strength of those two. In fact, even the elders of the imperial family in the sky nodded their heads slightly. At this moment, Lin Xian and Tanny Fei in front of them started fighting again. Both of them were extremely fast, like lightning, and kept colliding in the sky. Every time, there would be a patch of sword light that turned into sharp sword qi and scattered in all directions. Chapter 2058. Boom, boom. Lin Xian did not stop attacking. Although he did not draw his sword, the sword qi that he released was sharp. The sword qi contained the power of the great dragon sword soul and was extremely terrifying. The power contained in the sword qi made people want to kneel down and worship it. However, one had to admit that Tanny Fei was extremely powerful. As a sky pride of the Dian's sacred ground, his unique skills were terrifying. Moreover, the giant black sword in his hand was a precious treasure. This made him, who was originally fierce, even more violent. Buzz. At this moment, Tanny Fei slashed out again. A terrifying sword light appeared and slashed down. This sword contained a terrifying murderous aura that locked onto Lin Xian and wanted to kill him. The murderous aura was so powerful that it could even hurt one's soul. Buzz. Lin Xian blocked the attack with a backhand. Countless sword qi intertwined on his palm and formed a green dragon divine shield that blocked the terrifying sword light. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. Then, he formed a seal with his right hand and a terrifying lightning power surged out from his palm and quickly took shape. It turned into a thunder eagle and flew out instantly. Boom! This thunder eagle was extremely terrifying. It was completely formed by the lightning power and its speed was extremely fast. In an instant, it disappeared into the void like a bolt of lightning. When it reappeared, it was still in front of Tanny Fei. What, it was so fast! Tanny Fei's face changed drastically and his pupils shrank. He did not expect this move at all. Previously, he had seen Lin Xian's ice power and knew that Lin Xian had the power of fire. Therefore, he was on guard against these two powers. However, he did not expect Lin Xian to use three powers. The power of lightning. This surprised him and he could not guard against it. Therefore, in an instant, the thunder eagle appeared in front of him and was about to attack him. Buzz. At this critical moment, Tanny Fei used the giant black sword in his hand to block in front of him. Countless sword runes flickered on the giant sword and turned into rays of sword light that formed a terrifying sword screen that protected him. Boom! At the next moment, the wild thunderbolt eagle crashed into the sword screen that filled the sky, causing a huge explosion. The sky was filled with thunder and lightning, completely drowning the sky. Boom! Boom! Thunder rumbled continuously, deafening everyone's ears. The expressions of the surrounding elites and sky prides also changed. They also did not expect Lin Xian to possess the power of lightning. It was truly surprising. This kid was too terrifying. First, he displayed the power of ice and fire. Now, he displayed the power of lightning. Moreover, the power of these three attributes were all so powerful. Where did he come from? A series of discussions took place. Even geniuses like Fist Tyrant and First Saber could no longer stay calm. The reason for that was because the power contained within the three attributes was simply too frightening. It caused them to be extremely fearful. The eighth prince's lips curled into a smile. He thought in his heart that these should be the three powers of the Cerberus. Who would have thought that he would be able to grasp them all? This kid was truly a peerless genius. He was able to grasp the power of the Cerberus in such a short time. The eighth prince had been to Valurium Palace before, so he knew about the existence of the Cerberus Mountain. He also knew that Lin Xian was cultivating in the Cerberus Mountain. Therefore, when he saw the three attributes, he naturally thought of the Cerberus. In the distance, the rumbling of thunder continued, but the sound was getting weaker and weaker. Soon, the sky full of thunder and lightning disappeared, allowing the crowd to see the situation inside. Then they were all stunned. He did not expect the other party to have mastered a sword formation. Moreover, it seemed to be quite powerful. That murderous aura made him feel uncomfortable all over. However, he soon sneered because he was very confident in the Great Development Sword Formation. The Great Development Sword Formation was the ultimate technique of the Great Development Sacred Ground. No matter what kind of formation the other party had, it could not be compared to his. He was very confident about that. Therefore, in the next moment, he continued to activate the Great Development Sword Formation. Streaks of sword chi flew in the air, forming a sword of light that quickly combined. That was because the sword light that filled the sky in front of him had disappeared, and then Lin Xian's figure appeared. A huge crack appeared on the ice goddess statue on his body. It had been slashed open by the sword. However, under the ice goddess statue, there was a coiled azure dragon that formed a divine shield. It was this azure dragon shield that had blocked the sharp sword light, preventing Lin Xian from being injured at all. At that moment, Lin Xian raised his head slightly, his expression incomparably calm. However, there was an extremely cold light in his eyes. What? How could he have blocked it? He wasn't injured. Seeing this scene, the princes and prodigies in the distance were all stunned. They could not believe it at all. That was an extremely terrifying killing move of the Dian Sword Formation. Even they did not dare to take it head-on. They could only dodge. However, someone had actually blocked it head-on. It was really surprising. How did he do it? First Blade, Fist Ba, and the others had grave expressions. The third prince's expression became extremely unpleasant. On the other side, the eighth prince was indeed smiling. At the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. Impossible, how could that be? In the sky, Tan Yifei shook his head frantically in disbelief. He was very confident in that attack. Even if it could not kill his opponent, it could at least injure him. However, what was going on now? His opponent had completely blocked his killing move and was not even injured at all. This was simply too inconceivable. Damn it, I don't believe it. Tan Yifei roared at the sky and activated the terrifying sword formation around him again, wanting to kill his opponent. However, the demon-slaying sword formation under Lin Xian's feet flickered with an extremely terrifying light. Tens of thousands of blood-colored sword chi filled the sky and blocked the Dian sword formation. At that moment, Lin Xian also spoke. The Dian sword formation is indeed powerful, but it can't hurt me. Therefore, you are destined to lose this battle. Hearing that, everyone was shocked. Tan Yifei's body trembled, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. He was Tan Yifei. He was an outstanding genius of the Dian Holy Land, a terrifying genius. Moreover, he was extremely powerful. This time, he came to compete for the title of the #1 swordsman. However, he had lost. He could not accept losing to a young swordsman that he had never heard of. I'm going to kill you. Tan Yifei roared crazily, and a king's domain quickly appeared beside him. It cooperated with the Dian sword formation to form an even more terrifying killing move. However, at that moment, First Blade and the others frowned. Tan Yifei's condition was not right. Was he going crazy? On the other side, Jian Shisan also shook his head slightly. It's over. Tan Yifei must have suffered a serious blow. The most important thing for a swordsman was confidence because that was the source of confidence in himself. Chapter 2060. They did not expect that the incomparably powerful Tan Yifei was actually defeated in front of Lin Xian too. What level had Lin Xian reached? How could he be so terrifying? Tan Yifei spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He struggled to get up, but the sword attack had injured him too severely. He could no longer continue the battle. In the sky, the royal family elders said in a deep voice when he saw this scene. Lin Xian had won this battle. Then, Lin Xian kept his demonic sword. The eighth prince had won another trump jade token. Everyone was shocked. They were afraid of Lin Xian. Peerless experts like First Blade and Fist Tyrant had a serious expression. They wanted to fight with Lin Xian for 300 rounds. Even the Golden Lion King from the War Tribe, who was beside the first prince, opened his eyes. There was a strange look in his eyes as he stared at Lin Xian. On the other side, Tan Yifei was sent off the stage. His face was filled with unwillingness and despair. This battle had dealt a huge blow to him. He had always been conceited and did not put anyone in his eyes. Especially when it came to swordsmanship, he thought that he was the top of the younger generation. But now, he had been defeated and sent flying by a sword attack. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to him. The third prince's face was gloomy. He said coldly, "Damn it. I must not let this kid live. I must at least injure him severely. Otherwise, he would be too much of a threat. Don't worry. Although he is strong, he is still not my match." First Blade said in a deep voice. There was a cold light in his eyes. Fist Tyrant also snorted. "I have 80% confidence in defeating him." Both of them were top-notch Sky Prides. They were powerful and were at the peak of their respective fields. Therefore, the third prince calmed down with these two people's words. On the other side, the first prince asked, "Are you confident in defeating Lin Xian?" Golden Lion King sneered. "He is not my match at all." Hearing this, the first prince smiled. He knew that he had made the right bet this time. With the Golden Lion King as his trump card, it could be said that this time, he didn't fear anyone. At this moment, First Blade also stood up. It was my turn. The first strike was unleashed. He was extremely domineering, as if he was the saber god, standing in the void. Biting cold killing intent surged in all directions. His opponent was a martial art practitioner under the second prince. When that person saw that his opponent was the first slash, his expression stiffened. Clearly, although he was strong, he was still no match for the first slash. At this moment, First Blade glanced at the young man and said calmly, "If you don't want to die, don't attack. Although you're powerful, it won't be easy for you to defeat me." The young man gritted his teeth. Although he wasn't as strong as the other party, how could he lose without a fight? Therefore, in the next moment, the young man roared angrily, and an enormous aura surged from his body. At the same time, a king's domain appeared. Facing the first strike, he didn't dare to be careless, and he immediately unleashed his king's domain. Coupled with his killing move, he quickly charged over like a berserk god of war. "You overestimate yourself." Seeing that his opponent was charging over, First Blade sneered disdainfully. In the next moment, he stomped his foot and disappeared on the spot like a bolt of lightning. Then, a sonorous sound was heard in the void, and a blue saber light flashed, cutting through the void and splitting apart the terrifying king's domain. Buzz. The biting cold saber landed directly between the young man's eyebrows. If it had gone a little further, it would have split the young man's body in half. The young man froze in midair, and his expression became extremely ugly. His entire body was drenched in sweat, and he was frightened by the saber light. His body was like a top-grade armor, abnormally sturdy. And his opponent couldn't even take a single punch from him. That was because the strength was too violent. Seeing the Herculean king appear, everyone shook their heads and sighed. They knew that no matter who the opponent was, there was probably no hope. However, when the Herculean king's opponent really stood up, everyone exclaimed. Chapter 2061. They knew that no matter who his opponent was, there was probably no hope for him. However, when the Herculean king's opponent stepped out, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Everyone was extremely shocked. That was because the Herculean king's opponent was not simple. He was also a peerless genius under the eighth prince, the Silver Dragon Spear Monarch, Lu Fei. His strength was not weaker than the Herculean king's. The silver spear in his hand was like a silver dragon, leaving a deep impression on everyone. They did not expect that this battle would turn out to be between two peerless geniuses. This should be the most intense battle so far apart from Lin Xian and Tan Yifei. At the thought of this, everyone became excited and watched nervously. The third prince also smiled. No matter who won this battle, they would be able to exhaust the top forces of the first prince and the eighth prince. To him, there were only benefits and no harm. "Lu Fei, you'd better back down. You're no match for me. Your silver dragon spear can't break through my defense at all," the Herculean king said coldly. His voice was also filled with power, causing the void to tremble rapidly. How would you know if you don't try? My silver dragon spear is not something you can imagine. Lu Fei snorted. As a peerless genius, he was naturally not afraid of the Herculean king. So what if his opponent's defense was strong? He was confident in his attack power. In that case, I'll play with you. I'll let you know what it means to have an unparalleled defense. The Herculean king grinned. However, although he was grinning, his body emitted a terrifying aura, as if a peerless demon king was rapidly awakening. Feeling this aura, the surrounding martial artists felt a chill run down their spines, and a chill ran down their spines. Lu Fei was even more direct. He took a step forward and charged over quickly. Then, he clenched his fist and a silver spear quickly appeared. Then he stabbed out with the spear. Boom! The entire area of silver light trembled and gathered in the sky. Then it pressed down on the ground. The entire space was completely dyed silver white. That terrifying aura was like a dragon moving out. It was extremely terrifying and made everyone's scalp tingle. In front of him, facing the terrifying spear, the Herculean king also made his move. He did not have any weapons. His pair of fists were his most terrifying weapons. When he moved, his terrifying fists shook the void and carried a sky full of green light as they blasted forward. Savage technique. This was an extremely terrifying mystical ability. Rumor had it that it originated from the ancient times. Now that it was being used by the Herculean king, it carried with it a ferocious aura. His fists seemed to have transformed into two peerless demon kings. They were abnormally terrifying. In an instant, it shattered the void and violently smashed onto the silver spear light. Boom! The collision between the two kings and the Herculean king. The entire sky was distorted, and a huge hole was blasted open in the void. Boundless cracks spread out in all directions. Many martial artists took a deep breath and their bodies trembled. Even a peerless genius like Fist Tyrant had a solemn look on his face. Even Lin Xian's eyes flickered. That was because he discovered that the two of them were truly very powerful. Neither of them were weaker than Tanifei. In the sky, as the two of them collided, huge cracks continuously appeared and spread in all directions. Seeing this, Lu Fei frowned. That was because he discovered that his opponent was actually able to contend against him with only a pair of fists. This really surprised him. One should know that he was a peerless genius. The silver spear in his hand was even more terrifying. This strike could even penetrate a mighty figure. However, his opponent's fist was blocked, and he did not receive any damage. Chapter 2062. At this moment, Lu Fei could be said to be quite powerful. His black hair fluttered in the wind, his eyes were sharp, and the silver spear in his hand was emitting a dazzling light. In the next moment, he stared at the Herculean king and said coldly, "Next, I will be using my full strength. Whether you can withstand it or not will depend on your luck." On the other side, the Herculean king also frowned because his opponent's aura was already enough to pose a threat to him. In the next moment, he shouted coldly and circulated the spiritual power in his body. Then, his body expanded again. Blue patterns appeared on his body, looking very mysterious. Not only that, but these patterns also condensed to form a pattern of a wolf's head on his shoulder. It was abnormally terrifying. His aura also skyrocketed. That was the celestial wolf constitution. Seeing this scene, the imperial family elders in the sky suddenly narrowed their eyes and exclaimed. The young prodigies and princes below were also shocked. The celestial wolf constitution? He actually has the celestial wolf constitution. No wonder he was so powerful. Everyone was too shocked because previously they thought that the Herculean king was powerful because of the savage technique that had been passed down since ancient times. But now, it seemed that it was not only that. Not only did he master an ancient cultivation technique, but he also had a strange bloodline constitution. What was the celestial wolf constitution? Lin Xian asked with a slight frown. Duan Qingqing was surprised, but soon explained softly. The celestial wolf constitution was a special bloodline constitution that was very powerful. Its power was above the back of Earth constitution. It was above the thick Earth constitution? Hearing this, Lin Xian was surprised. He had seen the thick earth constitution before, and it had shocked everyone at the sword conference on Mount Hua. That was because it was said to have an extremely strong defense. He did not expect the celestial wolf constitution to be stronger than the back of earth constitution. It was really shocking. No wonder the Herculean king was so terrifying and had such a powerful bloodline. At the front, Lu Fei also frowned. He did not expect the Herculean king to have the celestial wolf constitution. No wonder he was so powerful. The Herculean king laughed. "Kid, I have to say, you should be proud that you made me use the celestial wolf constitution. But now the battle is over. Whether it ends or not, I have the final say." When Lu Fei heard this, he snorted coldly. Then, he clenched the silver spear in his hand and attacked quickly. Boom! With a thrust of the spear, the world shook violently. The king's domain behind him instantly expanded and enveloped the entire space. Spiritual energy surged as the long spear turned into a torrent. An endless amount of killing intent soared into the sky, as if it wanted to suppress the power king alive. The Herculean king also roared. His voice was like a clap of thunder, shaking the void. Then he threw out a punch. Above the fist, a blue aura spread out and turned into a ferocious wolf head that appeared between heaven and earth. A terrifying aura rushed out of the sky, tearing the world apart. At this moment, the Herculean king seemed to have transformed into a heavenly wolf. The Herculean king's heavenly wolf bloodline was so powerful. In the sky, the first elder of the royal family was shocked. He frowned as he looked at the heavenly wolf's cry. He knew that the silhouette of the heavenly wolf was stimulated from the bloodline of the Herculean king. It was the power of the bloodline. Incomparably terrifying. He was afraid that Lu Fei would not be able to win this battle. That was indeed the case. As soon as the silhouette of the heavenly wolf appeared, it tore through the void and slammed onto the silver spear. Instantly, the spear was sent flying. Not only that, the heavenly wolf's claw slammed onto Lu Fei's body and sent him flying. Lu Fei spat out blood and flew backward. His face was extremely pale. This time, he was severely injured. I told you you're no match for me." The Power King retracted his fist and snorted coldly. On the other hand, Lu Fei gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. He grabbed the silver spear beside him and wanted to attack again. However, at this moment, the 8th prince stood up and said loudly, "Lu Fei, that's enough. Come back." The 8th prince had no choice but to attack. If Lu Fei continued to fight, he would most likely be severely injured. If he could not recover by then, his losses would be even greater. After all, there would be a competition for the second round. At that time, he would snatch it back. Anyway, a jade token was not a fatal difference. Hearing the 8th prince's words, Lu Fei nodded heavily, then turned around and left the battlefield. This was a clash between the 1st prince and the 8th prince, and the 1st prince won. The 1st prince was naturally satisfied. Originally, he had 2 generals under him. One was the Power King, and the other was Bai Zijing. One of them was unparalleled, while the other had terrifying swordsmanship. Now, although Bai Zijing had sealed his sword and did not attack. However, the Power King was extremely powerful. So far, he had not been defeated. Moreover, he had invited the geniuses of the battle group. This time, he would definitely be able to suppress the 8th prince and the 3rd prince. On the other hand, the 8th prince's side looked solemn. That was because the Power King was too terrifying. However, when Lu Fei returned, the 8th prince asked Lu Fei to quickly sit down and recover. Moreover, he asked his subordinates to give him many natural treasures. They were all precious herbs from the palace, and the recovery effect was amazing. Lu Fei did not stand on ceremony. He sat down cross-legged and swallowed some elixirs to recover. At the side, Lin Xian did not speak, but his eyes were shining brightly. At this moment, he was recalling the previous battle in his mind. He had to admit that the Power King's defensive power had surprised him, especially the Sirius Constitution and the Barbarian King technique, both of which were very powerful. He was comparing whether his Great Dragon Sword Soul could break through the opponent's defense. If he did not use physical attacks, but another path, soul attacks, what would the effect be? One should know that his heavenly secret divine eyes was very terrifying. Although he could not use it at full strength, it was easy for him to use soul illusions and soul attacks together with his soul power. Therefore, although the Power King was powerful, Lin Xian instantly came up with 2 ways to deal with him. Next, the battle continued. Every battle was thrilling. However, at this moment, the crowd exclaimed again. Chapter 2063. When the first prince saw this, a smile tugged at the corner of his lips. He knew that he had won again this time, because he was very confident in the Golden Lion King. On the other hand, the third prince's face was gloomy. Previously, he was still gloating because the 8th prince had lost a great general. However, he did not expect that it would be his turn in the blink of an eye. To be honest, although Quan Ba was very powerful, the Golden Lion King was too terrifying. Up until now, no one knew exactly what kind of strength he had, because he only used 1 punch in every battle. A simple punch was enough to defeat the enemy. As for his true strength, no one knew. The 8th prince's side also showed interest. This Golden Lion King was not simple. Until now, no one knew how powerful he was. However, it was estimated that Quan Ba would be able to force him to use 80% of his strength. The other princes and sky prides were also discussing. In their opinion, this would definitely be a fierce battle. Perhaps they could use this battle to see the Golden Lion King's true strength. Quan Ba also snorted coldly and came to the battlefield. He did not say anything and directly started the battle. Boom! With a punch, a red light soared into the sky and mysterious runes appeared around it. This punch carried an indescribable might. It was like the fist of a deity as it blasted out at high speed. It was as if everything in the world had to submit to this punch. This was the Tyrant Fist. The surrounding sky prides exclaimed. They did not expect Quan Ba to be so decisive and use his ultimate move in an instant. The Tyrant Fist was an extremely terrifying fist technique. It was rumored that once it was used, it would sweep across all directions. Boom! On the other side, the Golden Lion King also made his move. He was expressionless and wore a golden armor. He was like a golden god of war as he also struck out with his palm. In an instant, a golden light flickered and a violent shockwave appeared in the sky. It was like a golden sun streaking across the sky. It flew across the sky and collided, causing the entire sky to be torn apart. In the next moment, the 2 fists collided and an intense collision occurred. The light that filled the sky was so dazzling that no one could open their eyes. After the collision, the 2 retracted their fists. And at this time, Fist Tyrant coldly snorted. What battle race? What Golden Lion King? In my opinion, they are nothing more than this. Today I will suppress you. Is that so? On the other side, the Golden Lion King sneered. His fist changed again. At this moment, the golden battle armor on his body shone brightly as streams of golden chi rushed out from his body. They circled around him. Not only that, but mysterious runes also appeared in the surroundings, floating in the sky. Even in the void, an ancient voice rang out. It was extremely mysterious, like the sigh of a Buddha god. What kind of divine ability was this? It was actually so terrifying. Feeling this terrifying aura, everyone felt their scalps go numb. At this moment, even the first saber, the Herculean king, was frowning. That was because at this moment, the aura emitted by the Golden Lion King was simply too powerful. It caused them to feel fear and trepidation. Lin Xian also frowned. He couldn't help but admit that this Golden Lion King was really strong. Furthermore, the golden aura that surrounded him was even more hair-raising. However, in the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body circulated and offset this terrifying aura. However, the others weren't so lucky. Those who were stronger frowned, while those who were weaker directly circulated their spiritual energy to support the defense of their battle armor to resist. Then, it condensed into the image of a golden lion behind him. Boom! Golden kill! Another fist was sent out, and the roar of a lion resounded in the sky, shaking the void. Then, that terrifying fist turned into a golden lion and pounced over. Then, he also asked his subordinates to take out many natural treasures to treat Fist Tyrant's injuries. On the other side, the first prince chuckled as he welcomed the Golden Lion King back. When the other princes saw this scene, their faces turned pale. They had already decided that no matter who it was in the future, they had to admit defeat directly when they met the Golden Lion King. Otherwise, the price would be too great. The eighth prince frowned even more. He asked the few king-level sky prides beside him in a low voice, "How confident are you against him?" Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others were stunned. Then, they shook their heads and smiled bitterly. If it was before, they still had some confidence. But now, after seeing the Golden Lion King in action, they realized that it was really hard to resist. They were all sky prides, similar to Fist Tyrant. But now that Fist Tyrant had suffered a crushing defeat, they might not be able to defeat the Golden Lion King. Therefore, these people shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Seeing this scene, the eighth prince sighed. He knew that there was probably no one under him who could fight against the Golden Lion King. Therefore, he decided that if his men encountered the Golden Lion King, they would also give up. In fact, they would even surround and attack the Golden Lion King in the second round. However, at this moment, Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "I think that if I encounter him, it should be a 50-50 chance." What? Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others were stunned. Even the eighth prince was stunned. The surrounding people all had strange expressions on their faces. What did he say? 50-50 chance against the Golden Lion King? What a joke! Everyone didn't believe it. Although Lin Xian was very strong, the Golden Lion King was even more terrifying. They even suspected that the Golden Lion King had the battle strength of an almighty. The eighth prince was overjoyed. He lowered his voice and asked, "Brother Lin, are you really confident that you can fight him to a draw?" "More or less. I just don't know how much strength he is hiding." Hearing this, the eighth prince sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others also looked at Lin Xian with strange expressions. What's going on? Could it be that the Golden Lion King is still hiding his strength? Heavens, hiding his strength? How heaven-defying is he? Moreover, even if you know that he's so heaven-defying, you still dare to say that it's a 50-50 chance. Are you sure you're not joking? Even the eighth prince was shocked. Therefore, he didn't put all his hopes on Lin Xian. He even started to plan how to surround and kill the Golden Lion King in the second stage. On the other side, the third prince gritted his teeth and asked, "First Blade, if you face him, how confident are you?" First Blade took a deep breath. His gaze was incomparably solemn. Thunder fell in front of them, and a sea of lightning spread out. The terrifying energy impact made their hearts tremble. When the thundercloud disappeared, the Herculean King's figure also appeared. "Damn brat, you're courting death." The Herculean King gritted his teeth. Although the thundercloud did not cause fatal damage to him. However, his body was also charred black by the lightning strikes. Especially his hair, which was standing on end, and he looked very miserable. Seeing this scene, the corners of everyone's mouth twitched, and their faces were strange. The Herculean King's face was gloomy. Lin Xian laughed coldly. "What? You were the one who allowed me to attack. Could it be that you can't withstand such an attack?" Hearing this, the Herculean King was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He did say that he should let the other party go all out. He would not dodge at all. However, he did not expect the other party to be so cunning. Although the lightning did not hurt him, the negative impact was too great. His miserable appearance at this moment made the surrounding people laugh. Savage art. The Herculean King was furious. He decided to quickly finish off the detestable brat in front of him. Therefore, at the next moment he used the ancient divine ability, Savage Art. An unusually violent energy surged in his body. Then he waved his fist. The void trembled, and the fist seemed to have turned into a wild beast that blasted forward. That terrifying aura pressured everyone until they couldn't breathe. Then I'll play with you. Lin Xian roared, and a terrifying aura emerged from his body. He was like a demon king, and no one could look at him directly. A destructive aura surged into his fist. Then, he turned into a black dragon shadow and rushed out quickly. Apocalyptic black dragon fist. With a punch, it could destroy the world. Suddenly, countless thunderous sounds echoed in the sky, and the surrounding wind blew, and thunder flashed. The two of them exchanged blows, and they were evenly matched. The terrifying power caused the void to explode completely. What? Is this brat crazy? He dares to compete with the Herculean king in fist techniques? Does he want to die? Idiot, this brat's brain is flooded with water. He gave up his advantage in sword techniques and competed with the Herculean king in fist techniques. This time, he used his weakness to fight the Herculean king's strength. Yes, other than unparalleled defense, the Herculean king's fist techniques were even more terrifying. Perhaps only the Golden Lion King and Fist Tyrant could compete with the Herculean king in fist techniques. The others could not compete at all. That was right. Currently, only the Golden Lion King, the Herculean king, and Fist Tyrant could display shocking power in fist techniques. Other than them, it was impossible for the others to defeat the three of them with fist techniques. Chapter 2066. That was the Herculean king, who was known for his strength. It could be said that his punch could shatter mountains and rivers. However, Lin Xian actually blocked it. What kind of fist technique did he use? Everyone was dumbfounded. The eighth prince was stunned, while the first prince's face was gloomy. The Herculean king frowned. To be honest, when he saw Lin Xian competing with him in fist techniques, he felt disdain. He knew that Lin Xian was powerful, but Lin Xian was powerful in sword techniques. He was confident in his fist techniques. Therefore, in his opinion, his fist could even shatter Lin Xian's arm. However, when he came into contact with Lin Xian, he realized that he was wrong. And it was a big mistake. Lin Xian's fist carried an extremely violent aura. It was like a raging dragon, tearing apart heaven and earth. Even if he was powerful and used the savage art, he could only fight to a draw with Lin Xian. Damn it, what kind of fist technique is that? The Herculean king's face was gloomy. He did not know that Lin Xian was using the Black Dragon Fist of Destruction. Moreover, it was the Black Dragon Fist of Destruction that had reached the greater success stage. When the fist technique was used, the aura of destruction filled the sky. Just like that, Lin Xian blocked the Herculean king's fist technique. Damn it, I don't believe it. Savage art, birth of the savage dragon. The Herculean king roared. The aura on his body suddenly surged, emitting a savage aura. It was as if the ancient god of war had awakened. His fist technique was wide open and intertwined with each other. It was as if a savage dragon had been born. Raging Dragon Four Heavens. Lin Xian also used the killing move of the Black Dragon Fist. Suddenly, the violent aura that filled the sky turned into two black dragon claws. They intertwined with each other and tore apart heaven and earth. Boom, boom. This collision caused an intense explosion of energy. The Herculean king was not afraid. He had the sky wolf physique and was not afraid of such a storm. As for Lin Xian, he raised his hand and blew out the ice shield. The huge ice goddess protected him firmly. It blew away all the violent energy in the surroundings. He withstood it. He actually withstood it again. Heavens, how did he do it? Everyone was stunned. Originally, they thought that Lin Xian would use his super high-level sword art to fight the Herculean king to a standstill. As for whether or not they could break through the defense, that would depend on luck. But now, Lin Xian did not use a sword art at all. He directly used a fist art to fight with the Force King until the sky fell and the earth split. Furthermore, Lin Xian's powerful defense made everyone's scalp go numb. Lin Xian used the world-destroying Black Dragon Fist to fight with the Herculean king, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend. Everyone was extremely shocked. The Herculean king gritted his teeth. He did not expect his opponent to be able to fight him in close combat. It really shocked him. The next moment, he roared. The barbaric power within his body increased once again, directly causing the world to explode, shattering all of Lin Xian's fist techniques. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed when he felt the other party's powerful fist technique. He executed Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps and quickly pulled away. Seeing this scene, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, the Force King was still stronger. If Lin Xian was suppressing the Force King in this situation, they would go crazy. One should know that the Force King was known as an unparalleled existence in close combat. Seeing that Lin Xian had been forced back, the Force King snorted coldly. "Kid, draw your sword. You are not my match in close combat. If you continue fighting, you will not have any chance of winning." "All right, as you wish." Lin Xian nodded. The celestial wolf physique was incomparably powerful. Until now, no one had been able to break through his defense. How can such a person be defeated in 3 moves? He probably won't be defeated in 300 moves. I dare say that this kid must be bragging. Just you wait, he'll be slapped in the face soon. Discussions broke out one after another. The 8th prince's side was also stunned. Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others beside him twitched their mouths slightly. To be honest, they could not understand Lin Xian anymore. The 8th prince could not understand either, so he could only smile bitterly and wait quietly for the result. On the other hand, the 1st prince sneered disdainfully. This kid is really an idiot. He doesn't know how terrifying the Herculean King is. The Herculean King also sneered. "I have to say, you're really arrogant. You want to defeat me in 3 moves?" Immediately, an incomparably terrifying aura emerged from his body. A swift and fierce sword light surged out from his body, rushing straight to the clouds. Following that, it opened up the clouds that filled the sky. His sword Dao aura strengthened again. This time, Sword 13 cried out in surprise too. He was originally a person who could keep his composure. But now, he seriously could not keep his composure anymore. He was a Sword Dao expert. He could clearly perceive that the aura brought about by Lin Xian's sword was even more powerful than before. Could it be that he did not use his full strength in that attack from before? Was this his true strength now? Sword 13's palm was trembling slightly. On the other side, First Blade was also incomparably solemn. His body also emitted a terrifying saber intent. To be honest, this power was beyond his imagination. The Force King's expression also changed. He did not expect that the other party's combat strength and sword intent could actually increase again. It really surprised him. These auras were already threatening his safety. So in the next moment, he roared angrily and displayed the sky wolf physique. He quickly charged towards Lin Xian. He would not let the other party slash out the sword. Bang! However, just as he was about to move, Lin Xian also took a step forward. Following that, the demonic sword slashed down. A sword chi that was almost 10,000 feet long fell mercilessly from the sky. This attack, Lin Xian used 90% of his strength. Savage technique roar of 10,000 beasts. When the Force King saw the huge sword chi descending from the sky, his pupils constricted. In the next moment, he waved his fists, unleashing countless terrifying fist shadows that rushed into the clouds to resist the sword. Bang bang bang. These fist shadows transformed into terrifying beasts. There were cheetahs, lions, tigers, and flying dragons. All kinds of ancient beasts appeared in the sky. They roared at the sky, their voices shaking the 9 heavens. They quickly rushed into the clouds to resist the terrifying sword chi. However, this sword was truly too terrifying. When the sword slashed down, countless beasts were completely destroyed. Not only that, the entire void was cut in half. Countless spatial cracks spread on the sword edge. Then, this sword completely drowned the Force King. Bang! The sky collapsed, the earth sank, and countless sword chi waves rushed in all directions. Everyone was shocked, and their minds went blank. They really did not dare to imagine who could block the sword. At this moment, even the 1st prince was worried. On the other hand, the 8th prince smiled. He really did not expect Lin Xian to be so powerful. When the boundless energy waves disappeared, the Force King's figure appeared. He stood there like a huge mountain, causing people's hearts to tremble. However, there was a terrifying sword mark on his arm. Blood flowed down his palm and dripped onto the ground. The Force King's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with fear and anger. He was injured. The Force King was injured. When everyone saw this scene, they cried out in shock. As the Force King's defense was unparalleled, no one had been able to break through his defense since the beginning of the battle. But now he was injured. Lin Xian's powerful sword had broken through his defense. Was this the power of the number 1 swordsman? It was too terrifying. Everyone swallowed their saliva. They realized that they could not resist this sword at all. What was fatal was that his soul attack had taken a hit. To be honest, he was too shocked. He didn't expect the other party's third move to be a soul attack. Although his physical defense was unparalleled, his soul power defense was inferior to his physical defense. Moreover, he wasn't prepared at all. Chapter 2069. How about it? Do you still want to fight? Lin Xian looked at the King's Strength King and sneered. The King's Strength King snorted. His soul was injured and his strength was greatly reduced. If he continued to fight, he would only lose. He might even be humiliated by his opponent. Therefore, he would not continue to fight. However, he gritted his teeth and said, "Kid, don't be complacent. You only used a despicable method this time. The next time I meet you, I will not lose. I will let you know the power of the Sky Wolf battle body." As he spoke, he took out a few healing pills and quickly swallowed them. At the same time, runes appeared on his body and covered his wounds. However, the soul power injury could not be healed in a short period of time. He could only recuperate slowly. When the King's Strength King returned to the viewing platform, everyone looked at him. The Crown Prince asked in a deep voice, "What happened? How did you lose?" He still could not accept the fact. The King's Strength King said in a deep voice, "It was soul power. He used a soul attack that I did not expect and did not defend against. However, next time I will let him know how powerful I am." What? Soul power? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Each and every one of them was extremely shocked. They did not expect that Lin Xian's last move was soul power. It was indeed out of their expectations. One must know that like the King's Strength King, they had been paying attention to each other's swordsmanship. They were all guessing what kind of powerful swordsmanship Lin Xian would use to break the King's Strength King's defense. However, they did not expect that Lin Xian did not use any swordsmanship at all. Instead, he used a soul attack. This was indeed unexpected. Not to mention the King's Strength King, all the other crown princes did not expect this. This Lin Xian was too terrifying. Other than his outstanding swordsmanship, he also had such a powerful soul power attack? Who was this kid? How could he be so powerful? Humph, he was just taking advantage of the situation. If they really fought, the King's Strength King would not lose. In short, there were those who supported Lin Xian and those who supported the King's Strength King. However, no matter who they supported, the fighting strength of these two people shocked them. Especially Lin Xian, everyone's heart trembled. Because if they faced Lin Xian in the future, they would not only have to guard against his sharp swordsmanship, but they also had to guard against his strange soul power. It could be said that the difficulty had greatly increased. Next, the competition. Due to Lin Xian's victory this time, the 8th prince now had another trump jade talisman, tied with the 3rd prince. After that, the injured people were all recuperating and did not attack again. Besides that, Jian Shisan, Duan Qingqing, Gao Jichao, Su Yu, and the others all displayed formidable strength and obtained victory after victory. And soon. That was because they discovered that it was another fierce battle between dragons and tigers. This time, the two parties involved were also two peerless geniuses. This person was also a soul power expert. Everyone was very careful when it came to soul power attacks because they weren't easy to defend against. And they would be seriously injured if they did not handle it well. Therefore, they were especially careful when facing this kind of soul power expert. Especially Lin Xian. He obviously had the means to attack, but he did not use it. He suddenly attacked when no one knew. His lethality was even more terrifying. The Herculean king was a good example. However, Gao Jichao was also a soul power expert. Everyone knew that. Therefore, they could defend in advance when facing such an expert. Not good, it's an illusion attack. When the people in the distance saw this scene, they cried out in alarm. This kind of illusion attack was very terrifying. If one got lost in it, as long as there was a gap of 1 or 2 seconds, they would probably be injured. Sword 3 naturally knew the danger, so he roared. The long sword in his hand quickly slashed out, destroying everything. The sword stabbed out, turning into 3,000 sword lights, moving forward. Even their souls were being threatened. It seemed that it was not weaker than the sky fiend above them at all. At this moment, even First Blade also frowned tightly. The other party's killing intent was too strong, even stronger than his. Of course, what he mainly cultivated was not killing intent, but saber intent. Hence, with a cold snort, a sharp saber intent emerged and revolved around him, blocking the killing intent that filled the sky. On the other side, the Golden Lion King also revealed a cold smile. His body released a golden light, completely enveloping the platform. Lin Xian also nodded slightly. He had seen the Blood Sword King's inheritance before. It was also a kind of king that focused on slaughter. However, the Blood Sword King's murderous aura paled in comparison to Sword 13 in front of him. This Sword 13's killing intent was really too strong, making him somewhat shocked. Of course, this killing intent was still unable to threaten him. And in front, Gao Jichao frowned, his expression becoming incomparably solemn. Because at this moment, the killing intent that filled the sky turned into corporeal blood swords and attacked him. Not only that, 9 flood dragons connected heaven and earth. Each one seemed to be real, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, emitting a terrifying aura. They collided with the sky fiend that appeared in the sky. A series of violent rumbles sounded, and countless large cracks appeared in the void. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. In the end, those sky fiends that appeared in the sky were swallowed by the 9 blood-colored flood dragons. The entire sky was completely shattered. The enormous whirlpool had also completely disappeared. What? My sky fiend mirage was broken? Gao Jichao frowned tightly, not daring to believe it. His sky fiend mirage was very terrifying. Even a powerhouse could not break it at all. The other party actually broke it. Have to say, it really shocked him. However, on the opposite side, Sword 13's ordinary face carried a trace of malevolence. His eyes were red like a demon, and there were blood-colored flood dragons spiraling under his feet. The killing feast had just begun. Now, have a good taste of killing. Buzz. Saying so, he slashed out with his sword. Immediately, a blood-colored sword light slashed down from the sky. There were 9 blood-colored flood dragons in the surroundings, baring their teeth and roaring, charging towards Gao Jichao quickly. This murderous aura was too terrifying. Even Gao Jichao did not dare to resist it head-on. In the next moment, he tore the void, and his body disappeared, dodging quickly. Finally, he appeared on the other side. And the place where he was originally at was directly smashed to pieces. Want to escape? You can't escape. Now, the entire world is my killing space. The corners of Sword 13's mouth curled into a sneer. The current him was like a real killing god. Moreover, he had long unleashed his king domain, enveloping the space. The other party absolutely could not escape. Damn it, lunatic. Gao Jichao gritted his teeth. Originally, he thought that Sword 13 was just a little cold. He did not expect that at this moment, the other party was a lunatic. Those blood-red eyes and monstrous murderous aura made him feel abnormally uncomfortable. He did not expect that he actually released a demon with his own hands. In the distance, everyone was also shocked. They had never seen Sword 13 in such a form. How would they know that this was Sword 13's true appearance? Chapter 2071. Previously, he did not use his full strength at all. Now that the Slaughter Sword Dao was unleashed, It was incomparably terrifying. His entire person also transformed into a killing god. Therefore, there was no suspense in this battle. Even if Gao Jichao was a soul force expert and had a variety of ultimate techniques in his hands, in front of such a terrifying slaughter, it was completely useless. In the end, he was besieged by 18 blood-colored flood dragons and was directly blasted, flying, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Gao Jichao was defeated. The soul expert that made people extremely terrified was actually defeated. This made everyone find it hard to believe. When they saw Sword 13's crazy appearance, their scalps also went numb. Now, they also included Sword 13 in the list of people who could not be provoked. After all, when that slaughter feast was unleashed, it was seriously too shocking. The competition continued. Next, Gao Jichao and Duan Qingqing on the 8th Prince's side fought. In the end, Duan Qingqing was defeated. Because not everyone could be like Sword 13, unleashing an incomparably terrifying slaughter feast. Although Duan Qingqing was also powerful, she was still unable to block this soul attack. On the other side, Sword 13 also became more and more courageous as the battle went on. Once the slaughter feast was unleashed, no one could match it. In fact, even Fist Tyrant was defeated by him. This scene shocked everyone. Because Fist Tyrant was an extremely powerful existence. But they did not expect that he was actually defeated. In fact, they did not expect that a dark horse like Sword 13 would forcibly appear. Up until now, everyone could be said to have a very deep impression of his slaughter feast. That terrifying killing intent even made people not dare to fight back at all. I'll kill you. Finally, First Blade could not hold back anymore. He stood up and looked at Sword 13. Seeing this scene, everyone cried out crazily, their faces full of shock. They did not expect that First Blade was finally going to make his move. First Blade was an existence even more terrifying than Fist Tyrant. Moreover, up until now, he had not been defeated. More importantly, the people who had fought with him were all defeated by one blade. This terrifying method made people's hair stand on end. Now, First Blade was about to face the Dark Horse Sword 13. Who would be stronger? This was what everyone was looking forward to. Because what Sword 13 displayed before was really too powerful. There were even many people who thought that he might surpass Lin Xian and become the #1 swordsman. Therefore, facing First Blade now, everyone was extremely shocked. Are you finally going to make a move? Although Sword 13's appearance was ordinary, at this moment, he carried a supreme killing intent. Even in the face of the first strike, he did not have the slightest fear. You're not bad. You're worth my time. However, you have no chance of winning at all. The First Blade was even more domineering. Is that so? I've long wanted to experience your 7 Extinction Saber art. You'll see. First Blade said coldly. His aura gradually solidified, as if a peerless divine blade was slowly being unsheathed. On the other side, countless blood-red lights also appeared behind Sword 13, spreading out in all directions. It was about to begin. When the crowd saw this scene, they were all agitated. Their eyes were fixed on the two of them. He didn't want to let go of any details. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes as well. He wanted to see just how powerful the first slash was. Boom! A sharp saber light rose from the first saber. It seemed to have turned into a sharp saber and slashed toward the void. Not only that, but his body was also filled with countless saber lights. First Blade's black hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were sharp and he looked like a god of war. Countless people looked up to him. Boom! On the other side, beside Sword 13, the feast of slaughter quickly unfolded. The sky was filled with blood-red lights, forming blood-red dragons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, spreading out in all directions. It formed an extremely terrifying scene. The aura of the two collided, constantly clashing in the air. Every time, it shattered the void. Boom! At this moment, the First Blade let out a cold shout. The blue saber light on his body erupted once again, shooting straight into the sky. It turned into a huge saber light, shattering all the 9 dragons that rushed over. Around him, a divine saber domain was floating, emitting a terrifying aura. Terrifying. When the surrounding crowd saw this scene, they were all shocked. How terrifying Sword 13's slaughter feast was, they had experienced it before. But now, the first blade was so powerful that it instantly sent 9 blood-red dragons flying. It even completely suppressed the feast of slaughter. One had to admit that it was indeed shocking. What kind of terrifying realm had the first blade reached? No one dared to imagine. Sword 13 also frowned. He did not expect that his feast of slaughter would be suppressed by the other party. Sure enough, the other party was really strong. Storm of slaughter. But in the next moment his eyes turned red. With a ferocious expression, he quickly waved the long sword in his hand. Boom, boom, boom. Dragon roars sounded one after another. Suddenly, 18 dragons quickly appeared. That monstrous murderous aura scattered the clouds in all directions. From afar, it was as if a real divine beast had descended into the sky. The 18 dragons quickly attacked the first blade. It was this move that had defeated Gao Jiqiao. However, the first blade snorted coldly. In the next moment his powerful hand grasped the blue saber at his waist. 7 blade techniques, first blade. A sonorous sound was heard. Then, the blue saber light suddenly erupted. It was as if the 9 heavens and the Milky Way had descended into the world. It turned into a light that was 100 feet long and fiercely charged forward. The 18 blood-red dragons roared in the air. Each of them was like a real demonic beast. Their bodies emitted blood-red light, causing the surrounding void to crack. In the next moment, they quickly blasted towards the blue saber light from all directions. Boom! An extremely terrifying energy storm quickly exploded in the void. The terrifying light was so dazzling that everyone could not open their eyes. In fact, the entire sky was completely covered by this light. In the sky, there was an intense collision. In just an instant, 3 of the dragons were beheaded. They did not resist at all. However, the remaining 15 flood dragons pounced on the blue saber light in a frenzy. But right after that, another 4 flood dragons were split in half. The red light exploded and dyed the entire sky red. It was as if it was real blood. It carried a monstrous smell of blood. It made people want to vomit. However, being besieged by so many blood-red dragons, the shocking blue saber light dimmed. However, the sharp aura on it was getting stronger and stronger. Buzz. At this moment, the first blade struck again. The second blue saber light was slashed out. It was even more violent and huge. Like a torrent, it instantly covered the entire sky. As the saber slashed down, the remaining dozen blood-red dragons were instantly split in half. In an instant, there was a huge blue torrent rolling in the sky, covering the void below. On his right hand, a second blood-red spear condensed again and quickly charged out. It was useless. It was over. 7 blade techniques, the 5th slash. The first blade's expression was cold, and his voice was emotionless. Then, the 5th saber light slashed down. Heaven and earth turned into a tornado and fiercely slashed over. The huge Azura was split into 2 from the middle, turning into 2 pools of blood. It was like a sea of blood flowing on the ground. However, this saber light did not disappear and quickly arrived in front of Sword 13. Damn it! Seeing this scene, Sword 13's pupils constricted. He did not expect that the Azura he summoned would be split in half. This made him unable to believe it. At the critical moment, he raised the red longsword in his hand to block. 3,000 streaks of sword energy slashed out in a row, turning into a light screen in front of him. But it was useless at all. The 5th slash of the 7 blade techniques was incomparably terrifying. It tore through the void and ruthlessly tore all of the sword curtains apart. Then, it slammed onto Sword 13's longsword. Immediately, Sword 13 vomited blood and flew backward, directly defeated. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The first slash was indeed incomparably terrifying. Even such a powerful Azura could be killed. Even the terrifying Sword 13 could be defeated. Looks like practically no one was his match. Everyone was extremely shocked. They did not know if that Lin Xian could beat the first slash or not. To be honest, the strength that Sword 13 displayed previously was really too powerful. It made them think that he had already surpassed Lin Xian. And now, the first slash actually defeated Sword 13. Then, could he defeat Lin Xian? This was the anticipation in everyone's hearts. After all, Lin Xian currently had the title of the #1 swordsman. And the first slash was even a peerless swordsman. Between the two people, who was stronger and who was weaker? They were looking forward to it. You're very strong. I lost. In the distance, Sword 13 stood up and quickly swallowed a medicinal pill. At the same time, the blood-colored light on his body disappeared. The scarlet in his eyes also gradually faded, and then returned to normal. The other party was indeed very strong, surpassing him, because the 7-blade techniques only slashed out 5 times. He knew that the following 2 slashes were even more terrifying. Even if he continued to fight, he probably could not resist. In the next moment, he looked at Lin Xian with a trace of anticipation in his eyes. Because he also wanted to know, if Lin Xian fought the first slash, what would the situation be? Would he win? In the eyes of others, he surpassed Lin Xian. But Sword 13 himself knew that he was still a little inferior compared to Lin Xian. Because from the last time Lin Xian displayed sword energy, Sword 13 knew that the other party had surpassed him. There was lightning and thunder all around, and the terrifying saber light made everyone's hair stand on end. On the other side, Lin Xian also swung his sword. The Hell Sword Lotus above him also spun quickly. 9 black sword chi erupted, forming a black sea of fire and sword light that filled the sky. That aura also made people tremble. This was the ultimate move of the two. Once it was used, it caused a strange phenomenon in the heavens and earth. The sky directly split open, and a heavy rain poured down. There was also lightning and thunder all around. There was a strange sound in the sky, as if ghosts were wailing and wolves were howling. The princes who were watching from afar were all stunned. Even the elders of the royal family had solemn expressions. What kind of killer move could cause such a strange phenomenon in the heavens and earth? Boom! In the next moment, the ultimate moves of the two collided. Suddenly, a terrifying energy erupted, and a large crack appeared in the void. Thousands of spatial cracks spread in all directions. Boom! The impact this time was too terrifying. Even the prodigies on the spectator stands in the distance all made a move to resist. They had no choice. The aftermath of this energy had already affected them. Crack, crack. At the critical moment, the elders of the royal family activated the defensive formation. Ancient and mysterious formation runes flickered on every spectator stand, blocking the aftermath of this energy. Only then did the prodigies let out a sigh of relief. However, they were still looking forward with pale faces. Boom! It was a mess in front of them, and the entire space fell into an extremely chaotic state. Lin Xian and the first saber's figures were still engulfed. There was only a violent flow of energy in the surroundings, and it swept wildly. Boom! At this moment, a black flame suddenly surged out from somewhere in front of them, tearing apart the violent flow of energy. Then, it gathered and formed a black flame giant. It roared at the sky, shattering that part of the world. Not only that, the flame giant put its palms together and formed a giant flame sword that was almost 1,000 feet long. It burned fiercely and connected the heavens and the earth. Accompanying it was Lin Xian's cold voice. Fire God roar! With a furious roar, the giant flame giant slashed down with the giant flame sword. Bush, bush. On the other side, countless blue saber lights appeared, forming a huge light ball vortex that slashed out a vacuum. Then, the first saber's figure also appeared. He held a blue saber in his hand and looked around disdainfully. Then, he used the 6th move of the 7 saber techniques. It was another intense collision. The cracks in the sky were even more terrifying. Each of them stretched for thousands of miles, and one could not see the end of it. It was pitch black as if the entire world had been torn apart. You are worthy of me making a move. What? Hearing this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. Lin Xian was already so powerful, and the Golden Lion King still dared to treat him with such an attitude. Could it be that he was even more powerful? However, when they thought of the mysterious legends of the Battle Clan, they were extremely excited. Lin Xian also turned his head and looked at the Golden Lion King. It was indeed very powerful, and from the looks of it, its strength should be above the first slash. He also wanted to fight with the Golden Lion King. Although he had used 100% of the power of the Dragon Sword Soul when facing the first slash. However, that was not his final battle strength. He still had a trump card. 100% power was not the final strength of the Dragon Sword Soul. With Lin Xian's current strength, he could unleash 120% of its power. Apart from that, when he summoned the Dragon Sword Soul, its attack power was even more terrifying. Therefore, he was confident that he could fight with the Golden Lion King. However, it was a pity that the two of them did not fight in the first round. Lin Xian fought with another cultivator next, and his opponent immediately admitted defeat. The Golden Lion King also defeated his opponent a few times, but in the end, he was not able to fight with Lin Xian. In the end, other than Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King, who won all 5 battles and obtained 5 Jade Emperor tokens. The others had more or less lost. However, overall, the first prince was ranked first. He had obtained 22 Jade Emperor tokens. In second place was the 8th prince, who obtained 19 Jade Emperor tokens. The third prince obtained 18. After that, the 4th prince, who had soared 13, obtained 15 Jade Emperor tokens. The 15th prince and the 9th prince were ranked 5th and 6th respectively. They had 12 Jade Buddha King medallions and 10 Jade King Father medallions. The first round also came to an end. Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King did not fight in the end, which was disappointing. However, the previous battles had made them very excited. Thinking back, they were still trembling with excitement. Moreover, they knew that this was only the first round. Apart from that, there was still the second round. The competition in the second round would be even more intense. Moreover, it would not be a one-on-one battle, but a battle to see the combined strength of the princes. At that time, an incomparably shocking battle would definitely break out. Moreover, they believed that Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King would definitely fight in the second round. Because now, the 8th prince, who was ranked second, and the first prince, who was ranked first, would definitely not be able to get along. Brother Lin, this is great. I did not expect you to be so strong. The 8th prince was also very satisfied with the second place. Then he looked at Lin Xian, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing and the others and said, "Everyone, you have worked hard. However, this time, the people they brought were definitely peerless geniuses and top experts. One expert was enough to influence the entire lineup. As for how the game was going to be played, it would depend on these princes. Soon, all the princes brought their peerless experts to the Grand Imperial Palace. This was the center of the Imperial City, and it was the place with the strongest dragon chi in the entire Tai dynasty. Here, Lin Xian could feel the powerful dragon chi under his feet. It was as if a real dragon was lying down below. In front of him, there was a middle-aged man who looked very handsome. He was wearing a golden dragon robe with 9 golden dragons embroidered on it. He had a crown on his head, and his face was intimidating. The place where he stood was surrounded by the shadows of dragons. He was the current emperor of the Tai dynasty. Beside him stood a woman wearing a phoenix crown and a phoenix robe. She looked very noble, and her phoenix eyes looked down on the common people. She was the empress of the Tai dynasty, the mother of the first prince. Behind the two of them stood the elders of the royal family. Although they were old, their eyes flickered with rich power. Then, these elders stood in 8 directions, and their palms were also covered with dragon seals. Power surged out of their bodies, and they flew into the ground. Soon, the dragon patterns on the ground flickered, and the shadows of dragons appeared. They even let out a low dragon roar. At this moment, the emperor in front also took a step forward. Then he pressed his palm forward. On his golden robe, the 9 golden dragons seemed to come alive. They flew into the sky and circled around each other, forming a huge dragon diagram that covered the sky. Crack, crack, boom, boom, boom. The ground trembled, and streams of dragon aura shot into the sky. There were a total of 81 streams of dragon aura in the surroundings. Lin Xian realized that there were very complicated runes under their feet. Each of them was a dragon pattern, and there was a shadow of a dragon. These dragon runes covered the entire ground. Then, the emperor in front of him said in a deep voice, "Now, the second round of the assessment has begun." As his voice fell, the dragon patterns on the ground flickered more and more. Then the 81 streams of dragon aura intertwined with each other, enveloping everyone. Then, they tore through the void and disappeared. Buzz. When Lin Xian, the 8th prince, and the others appeared again, they realized that they were surrounded by mountains and a vast primeval forest. Roars could be heard from afar, bringing with them a barbaric aura and terrifying demonic aura. Is this where the second round will be? As soon as Lin Xian appeared, he activated the great dragon sword soul, and he immediately regained his clarity. Then he looked around. The 8th prince and the other sky prides around him also activated their spiritual energy to recover their bodies. This time, the 8th prince could bring 14 people. Other than himself, there was Lin Xian, Lu Fei, and Duan Qingqing. There was also a young man called Su Wenshan. Other than them, the rest were middle-aged or older people. Taoist Long, whom Lin Xian had met before, was also among them. These people had powerful auras, and they were of different species. There were many kings with powerful attacks, but there were also array masters and soul power experts. There were even beast tamers. It could be said that they were well equipped. It wasn't just the 8th prince's side. The other princes also had similar arrangements. They were all trying their best to perfect their equipment. This was because the second round lasted for a long time, a full month. However, Lin Xian's speed was so fast that it far surpassed them. It required powerful soul power and special techniques. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few beast tamers. However, the woman in red looked into the distance. "Let's go over and take a look." "It's futile to go over." The black-robed old man shook his head, unmoved. They didn't think that Lin Xian could succeed. However, after about half an hour, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the distance. The few of them looked up and were stunned. Their eyes widened as if they had seen a ghost. In the sky ahead, Lin Xian was sitting on a demonic crane, flying quickly. There were 2 demonic cranes flying on both sides of him. They were flying in the same pattern. The demonic aura on their bodies soared into the sky, bringing with it a powerful storm that tore through the void. "This is?" They were shocked and couldn't believe it. Could it be that he really succeeded? Just as they were in a daze, Lin Xian landed slowly with the 3 demonic cranes. The powerful storm blew the clothes of the 4 people. Instantly, they were awakened. Then, the middle-aged man asked, "Young friend Lin, did you really tame them?" "No way, how did you do it?" The red-clothed woman was also extremely shocked. As for the 2 old men behind her, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. Previously, they thought that it was impossible for him to succeed, but now it seemed that he really did it. It surprised them. Could it be that he's really a beast tamer? Thinking of this, the 2 old men's expressions became extremely solemn. They realized that they had underestimated this kid who was a few thousand years younger than them. At this moment, Lin Xian opened the map, pointed at it, and said, "We're in Tianfeng Forest, and there are 2 ancient ruins nearby. How about this? We'll split into 2 groups and explore these 2 ancient ruins. Then we'll meet here." "What? Split up?" Hearing this, the middle-aged woman was stunned. "What if we meet enemies after splitting up?" The middle-aged man also asked. Indeed, it was very common to see a team of 5 people. If they split up into 2 or 3 people, they wouldn't be able to escape at all. Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, with 2 seniors together, it shouldn't be a problem." Moreover, we have these tamed demonic beasts in our hands. Their combat power is not bad, and their flying ability is very strong. Even if they can't win, they can run away. How about this? I'll trouble you two to explore the one on the right. I'll bring the other two to explore the one on the left. Lin Xian also realized that the two old men didn't seem to trust him, so he couldn't be bothered with them. He let the two of them explore alone, while he brought the other two to the other side. All right. The two old men looked at each other and nodded in agreement. To be honest, they made a mistake in their judgment. Now that their faces were red, it would be very awkward for them to stay here.